Greetings, Flesh Wound Horror freaks, and welcome to Flesh Wound Horror Live. I am Flesh Wound Dan, joined by producer Todd.
Good evening.
And Mike Kruger.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
So, we will also have a very special guest tonight that is going to be hopping on the second half of the show, roughly. So, yeah, you'll see. Is it Nev Campbell? Is it Jamie Kennedy?
It's not.
It might be Todd. You gotta hook him, Todd. You gotta hook him. Make him think it's huge.
I mean, if you really wanted to hook him, you should just say that we're fucking interviewing Jenna Ortega or some shit. That's just automatic clicks.
We will de-age Courtney Cox and have her on. We're interviewing her avatar. No, but it is a very awesome special guest that will be hopping on later. Not Nev Campbell. Better than Nev Campbell. I would
agree with that.
Yes. And even better horror credits, I think. So, yes, we're going to be talking Scream 6. Of course, tonight we got a wide variety of reviews. Not doing a ton of news tonight because, to be quite honest, it's a little more meaty, especially with our special guest popping on later. So, but I did want to just say rest in peace, Perry Teo, who was an indie director. I always felt would go beyond that. Really talented. He passed away recently. I saw on social media, and he will be missed. I just wanted to throw that out there. So,
and Jeff Barnaby, who director of Blood Quantum, who passed today.
Yeah, one of my favorite recent zombie movies. Actually, Blood Quantum's a lot of fun, and you can still check that out on Shudder, I believe.
That's the one that takes place on like the Indian reservation, right?
Yes.
We got a question from Big T. Kruger, would you like to read it for us?
Big T said, "Is it Fairuza Bulk?"
Well,
I don't think Dan would be able to keep it in his pants if it was.
Well, you don't see down there, so
he'd have a bone for the bone.
Fuck you, Tom.
It's exactly why I won't do porn watch-alongs with you guys.
That's why Pugs is not on here.
It's all right. We make Dan the whole time keep his hands right here.
We're replacing him with Fairuza Bulk. I'd vote him off the island. I love Pugs, but I would vote him off the island very fast if we could have Fairuza Bulk. Shout out to Goraphobe in the chat. If you haven't subbed to Goraphobe, please do. Awesome channel. Swaggy G, what up? Cliff Boof, what up? Should be a packed house tonight. So yeah.
If it is Fairuza, don't look in her eye or you'll turn to stone. So Dan, be careful. Damn. Cliff Booth knows these Hollywood secrets.
Well, we got that out of the way early, at least. So yes. Yeah, I guess we can get right into it, guys, because I don't think we have other news that we're going to do. So we'll kick it off with that other film that came out this past week, 65, from director duo Scott Beck and Brian Woods. And this film follows after a catastrophic crash on an unknown planet, pilot Mills quickly discovers he's actually stranded on Earth 65 million years ago. Now, with only one chance at rescue, Mills and the only other survivor, Koa, must make their way across an unknown terrain riddled with dangerous prehistoric creatures in an epic fight to survive. So, Kruger, you are the dinosaur aficionado, so kind of makes sense that you go first. But before you do, I just wanted to throw out, if you're unfamiliar with these directors, they wrote A Quiet Place. They also co-directed Haunt and Nightlight, which is an interesting little movie. But what did you think of this one, Kruger? Oh, technical difficulties, maybe.
Okay.
Well, we'll get back to him. I'll go first then. So 65. I'll be honest, I was really rooting for this one because I was like, that'd be kind of cool if 65 ended up being the film that was like #1 at the box office that week. That did not happen. But are you back?
Yeah, technical difficulties.
All right. hot tag, then go for it.
So for the concept of am I freezing? I think I'm freezing.
Yeah,
A
you're
little bit.
laggy, but you're starting to catch up.
All right. Well, I'll just try my best. So the concept of this movie is very similar to Planet of the Dinosaurs, which is one of my favorite dinosaur movies. So I was really, really excited to see this. Not to mention, we never get big budget dinosaur movies that aren't Jurassic Park anymore. So the fact that we finally got one, this took priority over going to see Scream opening night. That's how fucking excited I was for it.
You did.
Now, is it like one of the greatest dinosaur movies I've ever seen? No. It's very by the numbers with a lot of things. But I can't say I didn't have a great time watching this thing. All the dinosaur designs and the creature designs were fantastic. I thought the CGI was pretty damn good. And the dinosaurs, they reminded me of Peter Jackson's King Kong. Like the designs were very similar to the dinosaurs that we got in that movie, which was nice because I love that remake as well. The ending, I just thought was a little bit underwhelming. I kind of wanted Adam Driver to, maybe like have a bigger, I don't know how to say it, like a bigger like final battle. And I wasn't really like a big fan with the fact that they just went to the whole now the meteors are coming down to kill the dinosaurs, so that's why he's got to get off the planet now. I would have kind of preferred if he was just like
kind of
stranded
convenient
there. Yeah. That was the only thing I didn't like about the movie, but as a whole had a great time with it. Definitely going to pick it up and add it to my extensive dinosaur library in my collection. And I would recommend it if you're a fan of dinosaur movies. Just don't go into expecting, a 5-star cinematic masterpiece, because it's not. It's very standard sci-fi by the numbers type of thing, but it's not a bad way to kill an hour and 40 minutes.
See, I think that's what I really liked about it. You don't get like big budget 90-minute basically action movies that they all need to bloat them to like
2.5 hours.
Yeah, and I appreciate this. Yes, is the story something we haven't seen before? Absolutely not. But I had a good time with it. I mean, the ending, I kind of felt like that's the way it was going to go, but I understand expecting more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, I thought it was a good time. Not the one I saw over Scream, but
yeah.
It was, yeah. I did really have a good time with it. I mean, I like dinosaurs too, so yeah, it was a good time.
And I could see like kids absolutely loving this fucking movie. Like if this came out when I was a kid, like it probably would become my favorite movie or so. I mean, for fuck's sake, Planet of the Dinosaurs basically was my favorite movie for a really long time. So, I definitely one I think is just fun. It's unfortunate though, because like I was kind of hoping maybe we could get sequels, and I don't think with what they did with the ending we could. Not to mention the reviews have kind of been really, really rough on this thing. But
I do like that we just get 90-minute one-off adventure. This movie didn't need to be extended beyond what it was, because it's a very obvious story progression in this. I mean, he's got the sick daughter back at home. He's trying to protect this girl in this dangerous world. Very obvious where everything's going to end up anyways. So stretching it out to beyond 2 hours would have been pointless. And there's a lot of movies that do that now, and it's like just 90 minutes. Keep it tight. I have no real complaints about this movie. I thought the effects were really good. I came up, I mean, of course, Jurassic Park, but for me, one of the big ones was the Edgar Rice Burroughs adaptation, People That Time Forgot.
I love The Land That Time Forgot.
At the Earth's Core. I always really loved that stuff.
Yeah.
The Doug McClure movies. So I kind of just like just very straightforward adventure, which this was. It's a great ride. I thought, again, the effects, the dinosaurs looked great. I like Adam Driver. I think he did a very nice job in this. He's other than Star Wars, he's not really known for doing a whole lot of popcorn movies at this point.
Mm.
So I thought he made a pretty solid action star. Did a good job. And yeah, this is the one that I do think take your younger kids. There's nothing in the way of gore or anything. This is all pretty family friendly, I would say. I don't think
I'm not gonna overshame Dan on this one like I normally do. It is a little intense, so you have to make sure if your little ones can handle it. Like I wouldn't take mine just yet. He's almost like I could do this one probably at home with him, but I wouldn't take him to the theaters for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little intense for a little.
Yeah, it's a good time to enjoy with your young teens, younger kids, whatever. And I don't quite get the hate with this one. I'm like, what do you want from this that it didn't deliver from the trailer?
Yeah, I don't really understand it either. But just Rotten Tomatoes tore this motherfucker to shreds.
Yeah, and I don't get it. I mean, yes, obvious story. You know where this is going, but we can say the same thing about, any Jurassic Park movie too.
Yeah.
I think it's just a fun, old-fashioned adventure that we kind of need more of. There's little things you can pick at. Yeah, you happen to just land here when the comet is coming, to wipe the asteroids coming to wipe everything out. But you can kind of just roll with it. I think with a movie like this, it works. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and I'll certainly be picking this up. I'm sure it'll be a great looking 4K. Hopefully, we'll get a 4K of it.
This is the kind that, is definitely one that they most likely will because of its style of movie. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Big T threw out there. It's definitely had that 90s vibe, that 90s dino vibe. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you watch Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World, Kruger, the late 90s, early 2000s show?
The show, I know I watched some of it. There's also there's like three things named that. So like there's a movie, and then the show. But yeah, the show was okay. But I really, really, really liked the BBC movie. It was like a 2-part special or whatever. It like clocks in around an hour and a half, and that shit is really, really good. And the CGI actually holds up pretty decently.
Yeah. So yeah, check those out as well. I like that era. Just in general. We don't really get that anymore. Everything. I don't know. They're trying to go like really high concept with it. I'm just like, just give me a good old fashioned adventure yarn.
Yeah.
Which I think this was, and I think it's definitely worth seeing on the big screen. So if you haven't, give it a shot. Give it a shot. All right. Well, short and simple. Let's go ahead and rate it. What say you, Kruger?
I'm a 3.5 out of 5 with room to grow. I'll definitely be watching it again at some point.
I am a 3.5 as well. I'm just going to say, if we get 65-2, you got to put Clint Howard in there. Maybe some Carnosaur crossover somehow.
have a fucking Velociraptor knock his teeth out or some shit.
We can go meta with it. He can just be Clint Howard.
Yeah.
And he suffered some kind of trauma with Carnosaur, and I don't know. Wheels are turning. I'm getting ahead of myself with Scream, but Todd, what say you?
I'm also 3.5, so it's across the board.
Absolutely, check it out. Check it out. I don't think you'll be sorry.
Just it's just like dumb fun for an hour and a half. I mean, I can't complain about that.
Absolutely. Did they have this in any? Did you see it like an IMAX, Todd, or did it have those?
No, it didn't have any large format screenings. Did it have a 4DX?
No, I don't think so.
or D-Box or anything? I didn't see any.
I didn't see it. See any D-Box seats for this one,
Wow.
unfortunately, dude. If it did, I would have. I would have
Yeah.
definitely.
I think those all went to Scream.
Yeah, fucking bastards. Like how? Why the fuck did you guys have to do it on the same weekend? Like that's some bullshit.
I feel like if they pushed this a little harder, it had potential. I mean,
Yeah.
I do agree the weekend probably wasn't the best one because I think they're hitting the same kind of teenager market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it kind of like out of the two, most people are gonna go slasher over dinosaurs.
Well, I mean, a more established popular horror franchise is obviously gonna be, you know.
It's hard to get your girls scared in the dinosaur movie than it is the Scream movie.
This is true.
If you want a different type of dinosaur thing that you may or may not have seen, Kruger, there's Anonymous Rex, like blends detective story and dinosaur. It's based on a book, but
what the fuck?
Another obscure little TV.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Not the Whoopi one. What's the Whoopi one?
Oh no, don't you dare.
Theodore Rex.
Dude, that is the worst wretched piece of shit ever. Like even as a kid, I didn't like that fucking movie. I think I got it as a gift and I watched it and fucking was pissed the fuck off at whoever gave it to me.
You just pile drove him right through the fucking table.
I mean, this was like fucking, I don't know how old, like maybe like 5 years old. So I wasn't package pile driving anybody yet.
It was your first German then?
Yeah, it was my first German suplex through the coffee table.
The rage was building up. That inspired you.
Dude, I like that would be straight up torture, is like to make me fucking have to watch that movie now. Like, I mean, that would be fucking the worst. I don't. You guys have both seen it, right?
I haven't. I've seen the cover.
Many years, but
it's such a fucking
I think
Goldberg
I was aged out at that point.
Whoopi Goldberg got to that point where she made almost nothing but bad throwaway movies.
Horrible movies, yeah.
Well, we will have a fan of her films up later. We'll ask him if he was a fan of that one.
I don't think so.
I hope not.
You never know with him. This is also the guy who loves Curse of the Screaming Dead. So I know if he's watching right now, he's gonna know what I'm talking about. So you'll have to tell us.
Todd, can you where the hell is the damn comment? Can you pull up Barney Likes Beers comment?
Which the Haunt sequel?
Yeah. Barney Likes Beer said, I want a Haunt sequel. It just got announced last week that they're making one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was it last week or wasn't it this? I know it was
last week.
I just heard. Okay.
I heard it was coming a while back, but yeah, that one kind of seemed obvious. I know there was talk right after.
I'm pretty excited for that. I actually really like that movie.
I always get that one and Trick confused, and Trick's crap.
Yeah, Trick is absolute dog shit.
Considering who was involved in Trick, that movie is remarkably shitty.
Dude, the worst twist ever, and the fucking isn't it done by the same guy who did My Bloody Valentine the remake? Patrick
Lussier. Yeah, it looks.
What the fuck happened, dog?
It's just a crappy looking movie.
Yeah,
I was
bad kills.
There was one creative kill in theory, but then most of them were all just throwaway. A lot of CG. That's a really
CGI blood all over the. Yeah, that was giving me PTSD.
Well, speaking of CGI blood, time to talk a film that has none of it.
All right. So next up, we have Kill Her Goats from writer-director Steve Walsh. And in this one, Audra's graduation gift is her dream house, but it soon becomes a living nightmare when some uninvited guests come to her homecoming party who aren't very subtle about the fact that they don't approve of the home's new owner. All right. So this is a slasher film, CGI free, as Todd mentioned. That was a big part of the marketing. We get Kane Hodder as our killer goat face. And all right, let's just jump right into it. So first off, out of the gate, you can tell that they were having a good time making this. There is actually a end credits sort of blooper reel that's worth watching. I think it always enhances the enjoyment, because I have some bad things to say about this, unfortunately, but I the sense of fun is there, and that's a big thing, especially when the movie does have a lot of issues. So it opens up with the decent enough kill. Then we kind of settle into the movie, and that's there's some issues here. It feels like you're watching some dumb reality show. All the characters are pretty insufferable. It's like I don't know, not Real Housewives, maybe more MTV sort of reality show feel.
Yeah, like fucking like Real World or whatever the fuck.
And that's the level of dialogue that you get through the whole movie. There's even some I spit on your grave deja vu moments where we're getting random shots of just shit that has nothing to do with anything. You can kind of tell, like, first feature, a filmmaker that's still kind of learning. Although I know he was either, I think, a writer or producer on Muck, which is not very good either.
I like Muck. Okay.
I wasn't a fan, but
that's what I was gonna say. It's really gonna depend on that.
But let me get to the good part.
Well,
the good part is,
but before this, so it's not incorrect out there in the statement. He also directed Muck, not just a producer.
He was.
He directed it. Yes.
All right, so not a first-time feature,
and he wrote it.
Okay, so
now you can see the similarities. Now, can't you?
yeah. On the plus side, because it is there, Killer looks cool,
very cool.
And the plus side is there's a ton of nudity in this. In fact, that is kind of most of the movie. I'm not going to lie, it's the highlight. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed in that respect. And we don't get that as often now, or certainly when we do, it's got to be these lower budget indie slashers. So I do appreciate that, because the characters, the actors are not great at all.
They're fucking bad, dude.
Eye candy helps. And this shows, like, if this was like some modern slasher where it's like, well, we're just not going to show any of that, this movie would be pretty hard to sit through, and impossible, I would say. The only reason I would is because I had to review it. So I don't know. That might sound like a backhanded compliment, but I do have to pat them on the back for giving people what they want, because this is a B, really more C-level movie that is saved by the skin. Beyond that, the ending doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Oh my god, dude, I hated the ending so fucking much. I was pissed.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a mess.
I'll just go in with
couple decent kills, but nothing like stand out enough to elevate it.
Yeah,
go for it, Kruger.
Well, Kane Hodder is Kane Hodder, so therefore he plays a great killer, and I love the look of the goat head and the weapon of choice too. It was like a chainsaw with a hedge trimmer on the other end, almost like Darth Maul style. So that was really, really cool. Unfortunately, though, we didn't really get to see that thing used that much, which kind of sucked. But yeah, this movie kind of fucking sucks, man. The acting was really, really rough. The dialogue was just giving me a fucking headache, and all the line delivery was pretty bad. And the story, I liked, I like simple setups. So, bunch of pretty ladies in a cabin, goat face killers coming, but then they try to like throw all these weird twists and turns in the, like, I think it was like maybe the last 40 or last 30 minutes. And I just thought it was really fucking stupid at that point.
Watching this movie is essentially like, titties.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Well, I mean, the bit of gore that we did get looked good. And there was specifically one scene that I actually did like quite a bit, where there was just like this like almost comical puddle of blood just squirting out at somebody and splatting Kane Hodder. That was pretty sick. But yeah, I did not have a great time with this. Kane Hodder is probably the only reason why I stayed through the whole thing and watched it to the end, because I wanted to turn it off multiple times. But
Not fast forward. Specifically, turn it off.
Yeah, no, dude, just turn it off. Like I was ready to watch something else. I needed to cleanse myself after watching. this movie.
Did you really think Kane Hodder added anything much? I know a lot of people were really excited, but it's like it could have been any other guy. Like I don't feel I don't know.
I would say the first kill was very, very like good. And it just reminded me of him doing old school Jason. But I mean, you could say that about 90% of slashers, to be honest with you, dude. It's just like it's Kane Hodder playing a mass killer. That's always exciting for me.
And is it just me, or is he starting to show his age a little bit?
That's what I was.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Our heroes get old. He's in his 70s now.
I'm denying it.
I'd much rather have him unmasked acting now than.
I do like when he acts. Yeah. Like, remember when he was
he's a capable actor.
Remember 13 Fanboy? He started crying. I was like, dude, I started getting teary-eyed. I can't watch my heroes cry. But nah, dude, I wouldn't say he's showing it too much. I mean, he did all his stunts pretty well.
He was at a recent convention. He's definitely showing it more now.
Well, he's getting older. That's what happens.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm sure like now he's gonna like choke the shit out of me if he sees me. Like,
it's just the first time I noticed it. Like I could tell, you know.
Yeah.
I know I'm fucking slower. So, well, shocker! It delivered two things I love: titties and gore. So I was having a good time. Was it dumb? Absolutely. Was the plot? Yeah. What plot? Yeah. I don't know. But
it tries at the end.
Yeah, I get it, but I liked Muck also, and it has a very much it looks like Muck. It has it's shot really pretty. So yeah, I still had a good time with it, but let's see what they think of it.
Killer goats. I'm not gonna waste a lot of time here. Cool mask, Kane Hodder, hot girls, lots of blood, dumb plot. I had a fucking fantastic time. More, please. Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5, and I would recommend.
All right.
I'll see you in New Zealand.
So I'm sure Pugs is going to be higher than you two gentlemen. So Kruger,
I'm a 2 out of 5, and the only reason it's not getting like a 1 or a 1.5 is because of Kane Hodder and the cool killer. So 2 out of 5 for me. But I would say wait till this pops up on Tubi or something.
Definitely, and unless it's a cool 4K. It is. You get
which is supposed to sell out this weekend.
Okay, yeah, you get a lot of extras with it, so you may just want to buy it anyways.
It looks fucking really cool,
but
it does.
As far as the quality of the movie, no, and I am kind of inclined to like this, but even I recognize it's pretty garbage, and there's better garbage out there.
Yeah,
but because you take out the nudity. Whoa, does it go?
But luckily we didn't have to, so there we go. Did I rate it 2? I'm also with Pugs. I'm a 3.
Okay, I'm a 2 with Kruger, and that's a generous 2.
Yeah,
I know my 3's generous too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so. I just there's just too much that had me clock watching.
Yeah,
so. I get it. But see, I started to at points, but then they delivered, and I got back to it.
Some of the editing, because the nudity is there, but there's like one point where we're just like panning around to this nonsensical bullshit where it's like, I just like to see the shower scene. Thank you.
As Chris is waiting in the wings for us, this is what he gets to hear. So you might as well introduce our guests then, Dan.
Oh, yes. We're there quickly. All right. So let's do a proper intro. So we've got Chris McGibbon in the house, Fangoria writer, movie star, all sorts of different things.
Why don't you tell
movie star
promote his podcast?
You are Blood Pigs.
I was a zombie in Blood Pigs, but I don't know if that would qualify me as a movie star.
Well, you want to downsell yourself.
Dan
I filled
thinks-
you as bigger than Nev Campbell, so you gotta.
Dan thinks everyone who's like in something is a movie star. He's got that wrestling, superstar. Everyone's a superstar.
I mean, hey, I'm not gonna. Whatever. If he wants to boost my ego, I'll let him.
Yes, and our he's responsible for me. That may
Unfortunately,
not
yes.
be
I've apologized ad nauseum for that, and I can't apologize for it anymore. So
it's going on your tombstone. Blood pigs and brought flesh wound Dan into radio.
I'm gonna make sure that you die before me, so that doesn't happen.
And then you just gonna smash his headstone every time they put one up.
Yeah.
All right. So
Dan, what do we have up first? We got Chris for 3 interviews tonight.
we've got Chris for 3 interviews. I mean 3 reviews.
Interviews.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna interview him 3 times.
I got shit to do.
Tell us about your childhood, Chris. All right. So
Why do you love Curse of the Cannibal Confederates so much?
Curse of the Screaming Dead. Thank you very much.
Well, we here are Trauma fans, so we go by the Trauma name.
Did I ever tell you the story about when they retitled that movie? When the director found out?
No.
The guy who called him about it was British, so he had a really thick accent. So he said they were calling it Coast of the Cannonball Confederates, and he's like, "Cannonball? I mean, whatever. It's not my movie, but like Cannonball." Cannibal.
All right.
So
Cliff Booth was an extra in the Muppets. He's still waiting for his star on the Walk of Fame.
oh, well, that's pretty awesome, Cliff. That's pretty awesome. All right. So we're going to talk an 80s zombie movie, 1989's The Dead Pit, from director Brett Leonard. And in this one, Dr. Ramsey, a deviant who enjoys torturing his patients, is killed by a fellow doctor and buried in the basement of a mental health facility. 20 years later, the hospital is up and running again, and a Jane Doe arrives in the institute with amnesia. Upon her arrival, a major earthquake rocks the building and unearths the now undead Dr. Ramsey and his legion of zombie patients so he can continue his evil work. All right. So, new to 4K from Dark Force Entertainment. And I'm very curious. So, Chris, you have a long history with this movie. I'm a big fan as well. I actually have the original poster, which was really iconic and eye-catching back in the day.
But it's not as iconic. And does anyone have the VHS tape?
I had the Imperial Entertainment VHS with the glowing eyes. I do not have it anymore.
I figured you wouldn't, Dan. Chris
Chris
Of course I
definitely
do.
does.
are you going to show us at some point?
I have to get up if that wants to.
Well,
You should, like
I
wasn't
just
prepared
figured
for that.
you'd be prepared.
It's here, and it's still it just doesn't work anymore, obviously, but it is here.
All right.
Isn't there a way to fix those? Or
Well,
Yeah,
I know.
You have to use like a heat gun or a hair dryer, and the glue will come off, and you can put a battery in. But I don't. I got one with and without it. I don't need to take it apart.
The Frankenhooker one's easy. You just undo the flap at the bottom, pull it out. It's like
Yeah.
that. It's literally on a card. You slide out, take the batteries out, slide the card back in.
Yeah,
Super easy on that one
Dead Pit was a little more difficult to replace.
because it's glued on.
Yeah,
But you've always been a fan of Dead Pit since I've known you.
yeah. I've always liked the movie. I saw it when I was younger, and the cover art, obviously is what got me to check it out. But
Now
I've
was
always
it?
been a fan of it.
Now was it the blinking cover art or was it the standard when you first saw it?
It was probably the standard.
Okay.
Because I feel like, I don't know, the blinking cover art. I mean, it probably would have caught my eye, but I don't remember seeing that piece until much later. On a copy of it that I purchased from a video store that was closing down. They still had the plastic piece on it, and that was the first time I remember seeing it like that. I think before it was just always the flat cover.
Yeah, I know. I always forget because I saw when it was on the new release wall.
Fair enough.
But so, 4K just came out. Dark Scott, not
Dark Force Entertainment.
Dark Force.
Oh, they're gonna ban you.
Why? I didn't say anything bad. That's why I brought you one.
You mispronounced their name. That's a bannable offense.
It is not, because we love the demon here on Farce. I'm doing the wrong show. I'm
Todd
off
doesn't know
everywhere
what's
today.
going on.
Jeez.
Demon's gonna just power bomb you through the floor.
All right, you two keep talking. I'll get the tape. Hang on.
Okay.
All right.
Dan,
so-
yeah. Why don't you? Oh, well, there we go. Musical chairs. I'm gonna go.
Well, I was a huge fan of this growing up. Once again, I actually believe I saw the VHS tape first, and those gimmicks that they used to do were awesome. I mean, they had to just rent this out like crazy because of this tape, which I believe we're about to see.
Oh,
Nice.
hold on. How do I make?
So cool.
Let me.
So this is another reason why I don't want to take it apart. It's still got the shrink wrap
Yeah.
around the box. I'd have to really. This is the cleanest copy of this I've ever seen.
Yeah, that does look really good. Yeah, I imagine that's pretty expensive if you want to acquire that now.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Especially
hurts
if
the
it blinks.
value.
Would any still blink?
No,
I mean,
no,
Not unless they
batteries-
were fixed.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if unless it's been sitting in a safe somewhere, but yeah, always a huge fan of this. And of course, I was a big Brett Leonard fan. I was obsessed with Lawnmower Man. You can kind of see why he eventually moved on to bigger budget stuff, because this is not a big budget film, but man, does he get a lot out of it. Actually, probably one of the most exciting finales in a horror movie of this period. Very clever. I won't spoil it for those of you who haven't watched Dead Pit yet, but the method used to fight the zombies at the end is pretty clever.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
Fuck it, I'm gonna spoil it. The movie's been out for 35 fucking years. If you haven't seen it by now, it's kind of your own fault. They use holy water.
Yeah, but the way they use the holy water, it's a little more clever than that. Flooding the
giant water tower being blown up. Yeah, that was interesting
awesome.
idea. Yeah.
It was awesome. And this is another one. It's actually one of the entries. I'm sure Chris has this book, Fangoria's 101 Best Horror Films You've Never Seen, which gave it a little bit. Because this was one of those ones for the longest time, like Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad, even to a degree where it's like, I thought I was the only fan of these movies because they just didn't get talked about. And then I sort of slowly learned, like, there are fans of these out there, which Chris is one, because I think this was like one of the first conversations we ever had, like well over a decade ago. Chris, was this movie?
Yeah, it could have been. I know Joe. According to the back of this VHS, Joe Bob Briggs gave it his highest rating and gave it a 4-star rating from night, and said it was the best zombie film of 1989. Which, I mean, I like the movie a lot, but I'm trying to think what else came out that year.
I was just going to ask if this is the correct statement, Chris.
Pretty sparse, and we didn't
say,
get a lot of zombie stuff for a while.
It could have been the only one, but it doesn't mean it couldn't have been the best one. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I remember talking about this. I remember renting the tape and finally seeing the uncut version. I think it was on the German DVD, because people for years were like, "Oh, the U.S. version's cut. They cut it down for an R and it's missing all this gore." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then I finally got the DVD and I was like, "Holy crap! It was missing a lot of gore, wasn't it?" And then I hated the title card for it. This really cheesy title card, because the VHS had a different title card where it used the font on the box art. It was a digital title card. It wasn't the original title card, but you could read it. The one that's on the movie now, it's hard to read. It says The Dead Pit, but it's really difficult to read. That's a small gripe, but something I've always complained about.
Well, speaking of complaints, what do you think about the Blu-ray? Is it up to par? Their first, well, technically Scream is their first one, but they both are out about the same time. So
Has Kruger seen this movie?
No,
he has not.
I couldn't get it in this week, unfortunately.
Wow, this one's kind of up your alley.
You'll
dude.
like it.
It's like 50% a slasher movie and then 50% a zombie movie. It really is like, that's it. It's first half's a slasher, second half's a zombie flick.
That sounds really sick. So, I mean, I've heard nothing but good things. I couldn't get in this week because I was fucking working so much.
Yeah, I've read a lot of people. You know, it's funny. I when I talked about this movie, I thought, wow, a lot of people love this movie. It's great, and then the internet happened, and there's a lot of people that don't like this movie, and I get really confused by it when people are like, "Oh, it was so boring. Oh, the acting is so terrible," and I'm like, "Is it though?" Like, I mean, like, it's not bursting at the seams with brilliant acting, but I mean, come on, it's not terrible. Like, give me a break. But
I thought the acting was pretty decent for. I mean,
yeah.
if we want to call this a B horror movie, I mean, it's a.
I mean, that's what it is. It was made for under
Yeah.
$100,000, like,
Oh wow.
and really just like shot ultra cheap, and but it doesn't, like Dan said, it doesn't look cheap. You watch this movie and you're not thinking, oh yeah, this was $100,000 easy. It's on the low budget side, but looking at it, it's very well shot. It's very well lit and put together.
And even compare it to the film that Cheryl Lawson was actually shooting, I believe, right before this, The Vineyard, from the same year. I mean,
Yeah.
which I think actually is a more expensive film. So, you compare it, I think it's quite epic for the budget. Like I said, the finale, one of the cooler finales. It also, of course, I believe it's Agnew's Development Center, which is kind of famous because that's what Ken Kesey based his book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on.
Yeah.
And they used some real mental patients, which seems like they were past the point, I believe, where you would be allowed to do that. But at least my understanding, unless that's an urban legend, they actually did.
I think that's an urban legend because I'm fairly positive the buildings were all closed. I don't think that they were still housing patients at that point. I believe they had the run of the place. And the building they were shooting in was recent. They had to clean it because it matched the abandoned building that's in the movie that's supposed to be abandoned. Like that's how the other building looked. Or it was the same building, they just cleaned a floor or something. But they weren't using I don't know anybody who would have allowed their family who is mentally incompetent to be in a low budget horror movie willingly. You'd have to get permission from somebody. So I feel like that's just, again, that's how good the acting was. People actually thought they used real crazy people in this movie. So
it's something that's been out there and written about in the past, and I was like, it doesn't sound true, but sure, we'll run with it.
It's got great makeup effects too. I want to give a shout out to Ed Martinez for doing a bang up job on the makeup. He did a really in the effects. I mean, he was really a one-man crew with a handful of helpers now and again, and did up all those zombies, and they were all people that they knew, relatives, friends, whatever. I think his brother-in-law is the zombie that's on the poster, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure that's like somebody he was related to, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and that poster was really cool because, of course, you've got like Pinhead, like basically trying to piggyback that a little bit. And hey, I don't care, it works.
Well, that's a theatrical poster. I'm talking about the video poster or the video artwork, the more infamous. Because this people didn't see this in theaters; they saw it on video. I mean, I don't know anybody that saw it in a theater. I
didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah, everyone saw this on video, so that artwork is kind of useless for most people because they never saw that artwork. The artwork they saw was what was on the VHS. So.
Yeah, it is cool. I'd grab it if it was more accessible, but it's way up high. And this movie's very quotable too. It's just fun. I've done life, now I'm doing death.
Oh yeah, I had a friend who would listen to Kruger. I can't remember if you're like a death metal fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a buddy who listened to some really obscure shit, and he, him knowing I was a horror fan, plays this song. I didn't know what the band was. I don't know what the song was. But that quote was in the song, and it was driving him crazy for years what quote that movie was from, because this band does like horrorcore stuff, and he's like, I know you would know this, so what is that from? And as soon as I heard the guy say it, I said, oh, that's from Dead Pit. And he goes, what the hell is Dead Pit? I said, that's the movie it's from. And the movie was on YouTube.
Dumbass.
So I pulled up the scene in the movie on YouTube, and there it was. And he goes, "Oh my god, that is it!" I said, "I know it's it. That's why I'm telling you." So he really wanted to watch the movie, so we ended up watching it right then and there. And he actually really enjoyed it. He thought it was a lot of fun. But he had spent like 20 years trying to figure out what that was from, and then I hear it in 30 seconds, and I'm like, "All right, that's from Dead Pit." So
Yeah, honestly, it's very easy to recommend it to fans of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. I would say it's actually more fun than most of them. Sorry, Kruger,
Yeah,
but
that's some bullshit.
the
I don't
scene
know
where
about that, Dan. Maybe
yeah, it's
5.
more fun than a lot of them. I'm doubling down. I don't care if people get mad. Dr. Colin, when he throws the head at the window, it's like, I'm the head surgeon here. He had better one-liners than Freddy did in some of those movies. So I'm sorry.
It doesn't make it a better movie. I'm not getting into this view because
what the fuck? What
Better
what?
than 5, better than Freddy's Dead. It's definitely
better than 5. I'll give you 5.
I'll give you 5. Well, I haven't seen the movie, but fucking 5.
It's
5 I
possible
could
to
agree
like
with.
it more than 5.
Yeah, it's not a tall order to say that something's better than Part 5 or Freddy's Dead. But I mean, why would Dead Pit and why are Dead Pit and Nightmare on Elm Street being
that's
compared?
what I don't understand.
I'm
logic.
confused by this.
You're
gonna hurt yourself trying
the
to figure it out.
same era. I think I have more fun with it. I don't quite get the hate for because there is hate for this one, and I don't understand it. It is much better made than a lot of films of the era.
One is a low budget zombie movie, and the other is a multi-million-dollar part of a franchise featuring a guy who kills people in his dreams. I'm still, you know what? It's fine. Let's move on. Todd, you asked us about the 4K disc. What did we think of the 4K disc? Todd, what did you think of the 4K disc? Because you haven't said shit.
Well, I was trying to nudge the conversation to that, and
well, I didn't nudge. I pushed.
I know. I was pleasantly surprised on how the 4K looked. I'll be honest. I was kind of like, it's Dark Forces first one out the gate that I've watched. I know, second. And they were both doing them at the same time. So if it's everyone's first 4K from an indie, you're going to be kind of hesitant on. But overall, I was pleased. I was shocked. I mean, it had a nice grain structure. What about you, Chris?
I thought it looked great. I have two minor issues with not just this, but the Blu-ray had the same problem. The audio is terrible, and I have not gone back to the DVD to listen to it and go, was the audio always this bad, or is this a new development? The audio just sounds very, very flat, and it has a lot of hiss in the background. I found myself really having to turn the volume up, which really kind of sucks because this movie actually has a really great score. And I don't know if it was mixed in ultra stereo or not. If it was, I don't think they're using that. I don't know if the tape says that. No, it doesn't say anything about it. So this honestly could have always sounded like shit, and I'm just starting to notice it because it's on Blu-ray and it's on 4K. And the other issue I have is the picture is very, very bright. They did not go in and color time this, I think, in the right way that it should have been color timed. On the VHS specifically, and I know it's not something to base off of, but there's a little bit of truth to how a picture looked on VHS, a little bit, because they usually got those masters usually came from a print, which was color timed by the people who made the film most of the time. Anyway, a lot of the nighttime scenes in this film on VHS have a blue hue to them, and on subsequent reissues on DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K, that blue hue was removed in favor of like natural lighting. In the 80s, definitely favored that blue, look to nighttime scenes. So I think the nighttime stuff is a little too bright for a lot of it. There's some great atmosphere in this film that's kind of ruined by having a really bright picture on the film. And I don't think the 4K is graded for HDR, which I know gives you those really deep blacks.
I don't think it is either.
I don't think this one has that on there, which is disappointing because I think with the HDR, we would have gotten a lot closer to like a proper color grading for it. But overall, like the picture itself looks great. I can echo what Todd said. The grain structure's there, the details there. It truly is the best the film has ever looked. But at the same time, it could have used a color pass or another, maybe a smidge down on the brightness.
I thought it was. Yeah, it is. It is HDR10.
I don't know if it is. I feel like that's a fib. Because it doesn't have most of the HDR. I mean, all the HDR10 discs I've ever put in when there's black on the screen, it's pure black. I have an OLED TV.
I watched
one,
it on the projector, so that black level being a little off on the HDR10, I might not have noticed.
Yeah, it's kind of gray. It's not a deep black like it should be with the HDR10. So I'm not saying the Dark Forest is lying.
Well, it also could be where you still have to talk about the transfers black levels before you even get into the HDR.
Yeah.
So if it's a little too, if it was a little grayer to begin with, the HDR is not going to eliminate that problem. So
right.
But
see,
and I knew you'd notice some of the technical, like, because I don't know the movie like you know the movie. Like you can look and be like, this is colored. It's like when I watch Halloween. This shit's supposed to be blue. What's this nonsense?
Yeah.
So I did. Yeah. So I knew you'd notice all those little.
There's a handful of movies that I am privy to that information on, and sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. So
mostly a curse.
You remember years ago us talking like, man, I hope this gets a proper release, and can you believe we're seeing Dead Pit on 4K? Did you ever?
Yeah. No, I mean it is insane. And we can talk about the thing that Dan asked about, because that's a long dead issue. So many. Well, Dan, did you want to offer your thoughts on the disc before I get into this? Because this is kind of a long story.
I think the transfer looks good. I'm not obviously as technical as you guys. It looks, if you don't already own it, certainly I would say it's worth it. I would say get it maybe in a bundle. It's a better value. I have not checked out Scream 1981 on 4K yet, so I have no idea how that looks, but I know they have bundle options, and you save a little bit. I just said screw it and got the bundle, so we'll see. I don't know that one's going to be helped in 4K or not, but
I've never seen it.
We'll find out. But it's a good release for me. Then
it's a solid. I was a little annoyed by the lack of reversible artwork on this one.
You saw it happen live.
I did. I saw Todd's face. He's like, because I don't hate that poster up, but the original poster up, but at the same time, like, this isn't what people know this movie for. Like, this really should have had the iconic artwork on the flip side. I appreciate that they finally used that art for something, but I don't know.
The Chilling 4K coming soon.
Is it really?
No, that was just a joke, but maybe.
It's owned by the same dude, so it's possible. Don't joke about that. It could be happening. So that actually is a perfect segue into my little story here. So many years ago, I was really determined to see Dead Pit end up with another studio that wasn't Code Red, because Code Red put the DVD out. They really didn't do anything with it, and I believe that there was a lot of discussion where Bill Olsen was just deterred, like he was talk shit about how it never sold and he wasn't going to renew it, and he didn't care if anyone else did it. So I tracked down the guy who owned it, who was this 96-year-old or 92-year-old curmudgeon named Jack Sansorini. And Jack at first was really cool and really hated Bill Olsen. He did not want, R.I.P. Bill, he did not want Dead Pit back with Code Red because he was really convinced that Bill had ripped him off. And so I talked to another studio about the film, another company about the movie. They were interested in doing it. And Jack's in his 90s, and he kind of just came out and said, look, I really don't want to license this again. I'd rather just sell it. And he gave us a dollar amount for them to buy it. They weren't interested in buying it. They talked to him about licensing it for 7 years and with the possibility of purchasing it down the road. And they gave him a dollar amount. He said that was fine on the phone. And then we went to go start negotiations. And in an email, he goes, wait. I never said this amount worked. And there was a back and forth where I was like, yes, you did. We talked about it on the phone. You said it was cool. And he said, no, I never agreed to that. That's too low. He wanted like 15 grand for it. They offered $5. And they said, well, we're not going to do it then. And then I think he just sold it to Code Red out of spite. He didn't license it to them. He sold it to them. He was like, well, fine. They own it now and it's theirs. And I don't care. I just want it gone. And he sold it with the Chilling. That's why I'm saying like that might be, we might be looking at at least a Blu-ray of the Chilling at some point. But he went from being kind of a reasonable, relatively nice guy to this venomous bastard. he really got nasty towards the end of our sort of conversations.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people involved in the film were like, yeah, that he was like that 30 years ago. He was an asshole back then and would say things. And then when you were in the process of signing a deal, he would double back because his thought process was you get them to say yes, and then you tell them what you really want, and they'll give you what you really want because you're already there and they've already agreed to pay you something. And I'm like, that's a really shitty business model. No wonder why this guy only made like a handful of fucking movies and Dead Pit 2 never happened. Because there was a proposed Dead Pit 2 and it never came to light. Actually, there's a weird ad slick for Dead Pit 1 that has a synopsis for Dead Pit 2 on the back. And it sounds like the first movie, but it isn't. It's a different, I don't know. It was bizarre.
Wait
But
till
anyway.
they announce The Chilling, and then it's like, I was always all the people out of the woodwork. I love The Chilling. It's such a gem.
Well,
that's a Vinegar Syndrome puts it out, not Dart, not.
One of the things that we were interested in is he told us that there was a whole other version of the film that no one had ever seen.
Of The Chilling, you mean?
Yeah, because he had written, I think he wrote and directed The Chilling. And the distributor, Coyote Video, or whoever they were at the time, they had him recut the movie, or they recut the movie. There was a whole other version that no one had ever seen before, and we could have put that out, and that was his big selling point. We didn't give a shit about The Chilling. The Chilling wasn't even on the fucking radar. It was like we were after Dead Pit, and he threw The Chilling in as like a last minute addition to try to get more money. And then he started pushing for this alternate version. It's like, people don't even care about the version that's out now. Unless the alternate version is a completely different fucking film. I don't think they're going to care about that either. It's still not a great movie. So,
but it stars Dan Haggerty, star of Kruger's favorite Elf.
And
Elves.
And Linda
Elves.
Blair. You know, I mean, it does have Linda Blair in it. So,
yes,
that's why it might sell. Honestly, just like, oh, I've never heard of that, but Linda Blair's in it.
Honestly, if Code Red didn't poop that out on Blu-ray when they did Dead Pit and
DVD,
well, they did the DVD, but they did the DVD when DVDs were popular. When they didn't do a Blu-ray after they basically owned the fucking movie, I really feel like that was a surefire sign of like, yeah, we're probably not going to tackle this anytime soon. And
was that shot on film or video? I don't remember.
It was shot on film.
Okay.
Edited on video, I think, but shot on film. But regardless. So yeah, that's my
all right.
My Dead Pit story.
Is that guy still around?
God, I hope not. Was a long that was 6 years ago, and he was in his 90s when I talked to him. So yeah, I mean,
we got someone joining in. He wants to yell at Chris now.
Bring it on, you old fuck.
This looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Oh no! Wait! I think that's Dan's crush in there.
Oh, it's messed up, Todd.
Somebody really trying to yell at me? Let's do this.
My dog, maybe, but
I can handle it. I can handle it. No, I don't want to speak ill of anybody. Honestly, I think it was just the whole thing. I think was just in general just a misunderstanding.
It's too bad they couldn't get in touch with you and your sealed VHS copy because it probably sounds better.
Well, the problem with this is the rated version. So if they tried to use it, it'd be missing audio elements from the uncut version, which it's a substantial amount of footage that's missing. The rated version pretty much takes out all the gore, all of it, like not just a little bit of it, all of it. And this was 89, so that makes perfect sense that the MPAA would have really fucking cut this one down. Because there are some really gory bits in it, and some stuff that isn't incredibly gory, but still is missing from the rated version. So, like, there's a character that I think it's not Nurse Kygar, the other nurse, the one who gets it is Nurse Kygar, where she's holding the brain in the bathroom, and she's a zombified. When Dr. Swan opens the door in the rated version, you hear her going making the sounds, and then it shows her for a split second holding the brain up, and that's it. There's no her moving towards the camera. You have no fucking clue what's going on. You just hear her making noises. For all you know, she's fucking that brain. And it almost plays worse because it's not like, oh, your mind pieces together something worse. You're given a glimpse, but it's such a quick glimpse, you have no fucking clue what just happened. So the rated version on that is not one that I've revisited often.
Yeah,
But-
it's pretty rough. It's
Yeah.
pretty rough. I mean, that would have been the first version I saw. So
Yeah, it's the first
There's-
version all of us would have seen. So,
Yeah,
still
wasn't-
something there.
I wasn't in love with it then.
are you in love with it now?
I enjoy it. Well, let's find out. What would you rate it, Chris?
Do you coddle it at night and whisper sweet nothings into it
I do to the 4K and thank the demon every night
with that giant fucking head on the slipcover?
with the giant fucking head on the slipcover. So, what do you rate the film, Chris?
Well, the film's like a solid, I don't know, probably solid
Out of
4.
5.
Out of 5, I'd probably give it like a 3.5 out of 5. I'd be close to Joe Bob. It's a solid movie, but it's rough around the edges, and it's got some pacing issues for sure. At 104 minutes long, I think. It is one that I feel like 10 minutes off the first half wouldn't have hurt it too much. Shaved off rather, but yeah, it's still a solid movie. I mean, you could do a lot worse than it, and honestly, watch The Chilling instead. That's worse. If you want to, but
Until you see that alternate version, which is brilliant.
apparently,
The world hasn't ended yet because we don't have Curse of the Screaming Dead on 4K. That's when you know there's something fucking wrong.
and listen, Manos: The Hands of Fate is on fucking Blu-ray. Okay, if that can make it to Blu-ray, realistically, at this point, anything's game. And Curse, I just want Curse.
I watch it have no HDR, and it's just
Honestly, I wouldn't mind Curse on a fucking DVD just remastered, because that poor, what the hell's that? What am I looking at?
We have stiff competition on 4K, so
Oh my
you
God.
know.
Because that movie, like even the director said it when they transferred it in the early 80s, they didn't do a good job. It was a low budget fucking company that made the Video Master, and that Video Master has been the version everyone's seen. There hasn't been a better version of it. So I'm not saying it's going to be like a fucking night and day difference, but might be a little different. So I mean, I'd be curious enough to want to see it, but I'd be happy with a remastered DVD at this point. But
I know. Hopefully, they can sell some copies.
could be
Now,
a Blu-ray
Dan,
coming on.
Why did you tell us what we're doing next?
Well, I didn't rate the movie. As far as
Oh,
the
yeah,
movie
that's right.
goes, I'm 4 stars. I love this movie. I think it's great. I think it's a great time. If you haven't seen it, gem is thrown around a lot. I think this one is a gem, in my opinion. So there you go. All right.
I'm a 3. Check it out.
Well, all right. I think you'd be a little higher, but nonetheless.
I was going back and forth, but yeah, I'm a 3.
We're all like on par. And are we
it's
rating the disc too, or just the movie?
Well, me and you can. If you want to, we can on this one.
I'd probably give the disc the same score as the movie. The only reason I'm not going super, super high is the audio isn't great, but I don't want to take a ton of points off just because I don't know if that's a source issue or if that's a Dark Force issue or what. But the picture being overly bright, I think, keeps this one from getting a higher score. I think they should have probably toned it down a bit.
And the extras are all imported. So.
Well, no, see, that's what I was going to say. I'm a little lower because it's 3.5. Now, everything on the old Blu-ray, it's the same Blu-ray. So, yes, that's all there.
Yeah.
The problem is there was extras on the DVD that weren't ported.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. There was that Best Buy disc, right? That had stuff
Yes.
on it.
And I think there's actually stuff on both the discs that's not ported over. So, like, you can't just keep that bonus disc. It's like split up over both discs. There's missing stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's, if you own the Blu-ray, there's nothing missing. If you own the DVD, you're going to want to hold on to that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very small gripe, but what the fuck was up with the menu on this thing?
It was kind of cheap.
It was awful. I'm like, guys, this is a $40 disc. You can't use better authoring software to do a decent fucking menu?
First 4K. Second 4K.
First 4K.
Whatever.
Right.
Well, they have the Black Gestapo coming to 4K next.
I see, and I don't need to own that on 4K, but I think I just want to be able to, so I can be like, look, I own the Black Gestapo on 4K.
That'd be the only reason. I mean,
this exists on a 4K disc. No, that's literally the only reason I'm considering buying it, because I want to be able to do that.
Just be the aliens like going through like just post-apocalyptic Earth, and then it's like they pull out the Black Gestapo on 4K. Why? Why do we need this? Well, speaking of things that we absolutely needed, we needed another Scream movie, of course. So we'll segue into this. We'll give our non-spoiler review, then we'll delve into the spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet,
we'll give you ample warning before we go to spoilers.
yes, you'll get the air raid sirens and the text at the bottom. So there shouldn't be too many complaints, hopefully. Same
Chris,
format
be
as we
good.
always do.
Me? I'm not the fucking one who used to spoil movies all the time. All right?
Dan,
Dan was a walking spoiler alert.
he's gotten better.
I'm a seasoned veteran at this point.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Many years now. All right, so Scream 6 from co-directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. And in this one, in the next installment of the Scream franchise, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind to start a fresh chapter in New York City. However, things, as always, don't go to plan when Ghostface crashes their party. All right, so Chris, you're the special guest tonight, but before we get into it, just in general, for people that aren't aware, I'm not the biggest Scream fan in the world, so you may want to take that as a franchise. So you may want to take that into consideration when I give my thoughts. But
Quite
how
the
about?
opposite. And unfortunately, our biggest Scream fan is unavailable tonight. I don't think we'd argue Pugs is our biggest Scream fan of the group.
Yeah,
I think followed by Kruger, but I think Chris makes up for that. I know you're a big Scream guy, right?
I like the first one.
Okay, that's right. But you're like Dan on the seat. Well,
I like 1-4, and then I like the last one.
okay. So yeah, Pugs is the big one.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't dislike this franchise. I think that it like any franchise, it has its hits and it has its misses. The first one for many franchises is usually the one that most people prefer, and that would be certainly the case with me. Although recently I have been revisiting the others because of part 6, because my nephew, who's 7 and becoming a mini me, saw Scream 6 this weekend with my entire family, and he wants to see the rest of them. So he's been watching 1, 2, and 3, and
That's
tomorrow
awesome.
night we're watching 4. And
Chris,
so I have been
the whole time.
well, so the funny part, I mean, when I was watching Scream 2 the other night, I'm like, fuck, I don't think I've seen this in 20 years. I think it's been a while. I just remembered who the killers were. I remembered, but it was weird. Like, it's like hearing a song you listen to over and over and over again, and forgot about, and then 10 years later it comes on the radio and you still remember some of the words. It's kind of like that with Scream 2. Like, there's certain lines of I remember certain exchanges. I think there's things I'm like, I'm not sure that was always there, but whatever. Scream 3 was the same. Really, I don't want to say that I disliked 3, but 3 for me, it has a really terrible identity crisis. It just doesn't know what it wants to be, and it's very apparent that they really just fucking screwballed into that movie because they had to scramble to get something together because of the canceled concept that was supposed to be Scream 3.
You can tell. I always say with that movie, there's Parker Posey, and then unfortunately there's the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if she's really enough for me to be like, yeah, it's worth watching it just to see what she's up to, because
yeah, she's just as much of a train wreck as the rest of that movie. Dan.
Honestly,
I just
she kind
like
of is.
Parker Posey.
No, she's great. She's great. And honestly, watching the movie, I was like, I don't think this is as bad as I remember.
It's Halloween Resurrection for me now.
Yeah,
it's really bad, but I can laugh at it now.
Yeah, well, it is a comedy. Realistically, there's too much comedy in it, unintentional or not, that it feels like the Wayans brothers should be walking by the screen at any second. Like
we had Jay and Silent Bob. That's
Bob, yeah, we got them in there. And then 4 is useless. I'm sorry, Kruger, but I fucking hated 4.
See, I like 4 too.
No, I love 4. It's mean. I don't know. And
but it doesn't do anything. At the end of 4, all 3 characters are still alive. Their lives haven't changed at all.
You could say that about like all the sequels.
Yeah, but like 3 ends it with 3 concludes the story. As bad as 3 is, it still ends with the conclusion of everything comes back full circle, and it all, when that door opens at the end and Sydney sees it, she doesn't run to lock it, she doesn't set the alarm, she just walks away. So the audience can put together, this is over. She knows it's finally over. And in Scream 4, the idea was to introduce a new set of characters to bring on a new trilogy. Then the movie proceeded to kill all of those new characters off to leave the same 3 people still alive. It's like, okay, but they didn't need to be a part of this at all because their lives haven't changed at all because of this film. There's more people they didn't know are dead, more people they didn't give a shit about are dead. So it's like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And I'm sorry, but like Sydney, I can't picture her being the type of person who spends, I don't know, 4 or 5 years and, you know, trying to get away from this thing and then decides to write a book and returns to her hometown. Like, she just wasn't that type of a character for me ever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't buy this. I don't buy that she would do this. It was, and the other thing that pisses me off about 4, and again, can we spoil 4? Is that safe?
Yeah, you're fine.
It's kind of hard. The previous ones are kind of hard because they will be in this in the
okay,
review.
all right. So 4, when I thought they killed Sydney, I sat up. I was like, oh my God, are they really going to do this? Because this is opening up all kinds of interesting avenues for the next one. Oh, this is cool. Oh, they chickened out. Because my thing was like, if part 4 ended with Jill being successful and Sydney really being dead, part 5 would have had to have followed her. So in Scream 5, instead of following fucking Sydney, Dewey, and Gail again, we're following the killer of the last movie, who, let's say, like, her fame starts to die down and everyone's, you know, praising Sydney still because Sydney sacrificed herself to save her cousin and stop the killer yet again. So Jill gets a little pissed off and goes, well, Sydney got a sequel, so should I. So she goes to kill somebody. She goes to do the ghost face thing. The person doesn't answer the phone and she just says, fuck it, she's going to do it anyways. And she goes into the house to kill whoever it is, and they're already dead. There's another killer on the loose, and now they're trying to frame Jill for the new killings because they know what she did. Holy shit, that movie writes itself. That would have been far more interesting than the possibility of watching those 3 face Ghostface again and walk away. And I think that's why it took so long for Scream 5 to happen, because everyone was like, well, where the fuck are you going to go now? Because Wes Craven didn't want to kill those characters off.
That's what the difference is.
He didn't want to kill them. He thought that the audience was coming back for them. And to some degree they were, but it's like, yeah, but how many times are they going to go through this?
Yeah, the franchise,
and walk away.
The franchise needed to make bigger moves much earlier, and that will factor, I think, into our.
To be fair, as much as I'm not a 2 fan, they do off Randy, which is that's a core cast member.
They do.
You still have that and that, but by the time you get to 3, they don't want to kill who they have left.
No, and then like honestly, and like in 2, Dewey once again nearly dies, and it's like, how many near-death experiences is this guy gonna have? You know, and like how many times is he gonna get stabbed in the back? I mean, you know, come on. And
everybody's immortal in Scream.
It really is. Yeah, it's just like, you know, they're and in one way I kind of understood what Wes Craven was saying. Like the audience, you know, he felt like that with specifically he was making reference to like Nightmare on Elm Street, where the audience was coming back for Freddy. They weren't coming back for the characters, and that to him was detrimental to that character because it stopped making Freddy scary. People were looking forward to seeing Freddy. They weren't afraid of him anymore. They were excited that he was going to be in the film. They didn't even care about the cast. So his concept of leave the cast members, the ones that are returning and coming back over and over and over again, is that you would care about them more than you would the killer, because the killer is always going to be different. And I get the idea and I get the notion, but if you walk into 4 movies and in all 4 movies, these 3 come out on top, by the time the 5th one rolls around, if he was still in charge, I guarantee you none of them would have died. They would have come close yet again, and they still would have walked away. So somebody else taking over for 5 and offing one of them was like, oh my God, they finally, and at that point in that movie, I went, okay, no one's safe now. I felt like, okay, well, this is what I was hoping for, because now I know, oh, they don't care about the legacy characters. They're going to kill whoever is meant to die in this story. And I appreciated that. All that being said, on to 6. I liked it. I had a couple of issues with it. story wise, writing wise, logic wise.
Yeah.
But overall, it was in line with the rest of the franchise. It had all of the same beats, all of the issues I had with it really exist in the other films in some capacity or another. The leaps in logic are all there. I just think we were less cynical when those types of things were happening, and we were also less prone to notice them. You know, as time and generations mature and grow into these films, we pick up on things that we wouldn't have picked up on when we were 12 or 15 when we first saw these, or older, however, you know, but when we were younger and had less appreciation for the minor details that become major details. So I liked it. I didn't love it. I've seen it twice, but I did like it enough to see it twice, and my opinion didn't sway one way or the other. Usually if I'm in the middle of the road on a movie and I see it a second time, that can push me one way or the other, and it really just kind of kept me where I was. I'm like, yeah, this was fine. I liked this. This was fun. I had a good time with it. I enjoyed the ride for what it was. I'm curious to see where this is going to go, although I'm getting nervous because they are repeating some steps that I don't like from the first four. But I won't get into that just yet because that's spoiler territory. So
I think, all right. So believe it or not, I actually have some good things to say about this.
We don't
you know,
believe you.
I do. I do, in fact, have good things to say about it. I was a little bit concerned at a little over 2 hour runtime going in. I was like, ooh, I don't know. It doesn't need to be 2 hours. It's paced very well.
To be fair, every Scream's been 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the very
around.
first
Has
one.
it been?
It's around 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
117 for the first one, I believe, and then
Okay.
every other one's right around there.
Well, this one is paced very, very well. The kills, which I never really felt that Scream, as far as most franchises go, had a ton of great kills. I mean,
Garage Door is like
sure, there's
as
one or
fuck.
two, but it's not like a kill franchise. And you know, it's the basic stabbings, but kill wise, yeah, this is really really pretty good. There's also a lot of suspense. The subway scene builds a lot of suspense that I feel was lacking in a lot of other Scream movies. The ladder scene, I'll just say, which I think they actually show in the trailer, but that whole escape scene I thought was also very suspenseful. It's much better made than I figured it would be at this point. On the downside, it much Jason Takes Manhattan. And you know, there was those disappointments there as far as more Jason in New York. This never has a New York City feel. Of course, it was shot in Montreal, I believe, but I really felt like this could just as easily be any other city. I never got like the Scream in New York feel.
See, for me, this is where I'm going to be the opposite. I thought it did, but I've only ever seen Hollywood, New York.
Well, yeah, and of course, even New York.
Like, I haven't seen real New York. I've seen
Yeah.
Hollywood's interpretation of New York, kind of like when
Yeah.
East Coast people see California version of.
I've spent a decent bit. I've never lived in New York, but I'd say no. I don't think this could be.
But
any
I'm
other
saying
city.
for somebody who's never been there.
Yeah.
I mean, it did. It felt more than, and I don't know if it felt more to me than Jason Takes Manhattan, but it feels like we're in the city for most of it.
It helps being in a different location. I just,
Yeah.
you know, as far as like the Ghostface in New York thing, it could have been any other city.
It could have
as far
been
as
any
I'm
other city, but I think it's more for me. It was
Yeah.
Ghostface in a city. Could have
Yeah.
been Chicago.
Mhm.
Could have been LA. Didn't matter. Although LA to be a little different, but I mean,
Or
well, you have to have some Mexicans there
Yeah.
fucking with Ghostface. Yeah, you know.
Ghostface gets jumped by 10 cholos. Like,
well, Ghostface already took L.A. Hello, Scream 3, like that took
Yeah.
place
oh,
in
yeah,
L.A.
that's true.
That's
Yeah,
Hollywood.
so-
What LA?
let me ask you guys this, because
Yeah.
one thing that I dislike in this, and just Scream in general, is the Scream speak. I'll just call it. Like some of these lines, it's like, no, it's a sequel to the requel. I'm like, none of that's clever. None of it's funny. That's like kind of where I get a lot of the groans. It's obvious. These movies are so mainstream. So when they're dropping like an Argento reference, I'm like, okay, good. You Googled Argento. That part doesn't work for me anymore at all. And I believe the character's name is Mindy. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, but her just doing the Jamie Kennedy thing is just lame. She's like, I actually like most of the new characters. I think the Carpenter sisters are very strong. Her, I just kind of find her as kind of an obnoxious, just retread.
Dan likes to be the gatekeeper, so when he sees another one, it really bothers him.
Evidently.
I don't have a problem with her.
I don't
Because
either.
that Scream's always had that character.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with her either, honestly. I mean, I think because she's got more personality than I think Randy did. No offense to Randy, but Randy to me felt a little one-dimensional. Always kind of felt they didn't give him enough to do in the first movie. They really just made him the guy who knows everything about horror movies, and had a crush on. He was the geeky kid who had a crush. And in Scream 2, he's killed in 45 minutes into the movie. So at least with her, they're giving her something to do other than just be the movie girl. She's a character that has, a relationship. She's a character who's kind of funny. She's witty. She's, I like her character. I didn't love that scene where she goes over the requel franchise thing.
Yeah, it's like,
but in fairness, like I didn't love it when Randy did it in Scream either. I didn't think that because like his breakdown of the quote rules in a slasher movie, that became the blueprint that everybody at that point ran with and like took it as gospel. And it's like, guys, okay, like this isn't always how it's supposed to go though. Like there are plenty of slasher films where these rules do not apply. And now every slasher movie is taking these quote rules and treating them as gospel, and it's applied to all of them across the board.
No one has sex anymore in movies, so that's not even an issue now.
Well, no, because they took it out because of Scream.
I want to see like a Ghostface that idolizes like the torture porn craze. Just open it up with Ghostface taking a blowtorch to somebody's balls.
Wait, wasn't that?
It's like, whoa, this is not like the other ones.
Wasn't that Stab 9 or whatever?
It was like Stab 6 or 7 in the movie where they were like, it became too much like the Saw movies.
There's a lot. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself with spoilers yet, but I do think the movie is very entertaining to a point, and then the end happens. It's pretty dumb. Like the reveal's pretty dumb. Now, again, I get it. I know a lot of people's like, well, so were the other ones. Like, great. If that's what you like, that's what you like. But there were a lot of issues for me with the killer reveal at the end of it. Lots of tiny little things that I'll elaborate more on in spoilers, but you see like the museum in the trailer, so just call it the museum. I had some questions about that. There's some logical stuff.
There's
all over the place. Yeah. And I don't know. I just at this point I will say this. I don't care if we get any more legacy characters now. I think it should segue off. I'm fine if Neve Campbell never comes back. You know what? She's out there living her life. Killing her at this point doesn't mean much of anything now.
Yeah, honestly, she's a character you leave out there, you don't do anything with. You can do this with what's her name too? Gail. And you could just bring him back. Scream 10, they need someone, they want to do a fucking throwback, they can bring him back for a bit. I mean, as of this point, they can be a guest star here and there, but they don't need to be in the movies. I mean, Did anyone here miss Sydney?
No. But I'm still kind of pissed off they didn't kill her in the last one.
I agree. She should have been killed off a couple ago, but
other than Mindy, I like the new cast. I'll be honest. Like, that's one thing that kind of surprises me. I think Melissa Barrera is really good. I would even go as far as to say for this generation, just probably as good as Neve Campbell. I like Neve Campbell, but, I don't think she's necessarily a spectacular actress. She, has an iconic role.
Yeah.
Jenna Ortega is good, although we've talked about her. I still feel like she needs that big breakout role to judge her as
the
an
Fallout
actress.
We were told to watch before we.
Yeah, we need to get to that.
Did you get to speak, Kruger?
No, not yet.
Okay,
before you guys go.
Yeah, no, go before.
Poor
yes,
Kruger.
please.
Okay, so good kills. I like some. This was probably the goriest I think Scream has gotten. So big thumbs up there. Good chase scenes. I really like the chase scene with Gale, and I just thought all the way like I love a good ghost face chase scene, and this utilized it pretty well, and like everything like was really suspenseful. My biggest issue with the movie is I agree with Dan on this. The ending is really fucking stupid, especially because of something I can't talk about. I'll talk about in spoilers, but they do something that they did in another movie. I'll just say that. And that really bothered the hell out of me. I also felt like the movie kind of didn't have any balls when it came to killing people off. Like by the end of the movie, I feel like we're in a similar. I don't let me just talk about in spoilers, but I felt like they should. There was a couple of things that were wrong with who they decided to kill and who they didn't.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Huh? I told
Wait a
you I'd
minute.
make a movie someday.
it's taped, Chris.
So if you're watching this, it means I did not survive being busy and I had to miss the episode involving fucking Scream, Ghostface. So I'm here to give you my little review so I don't miss the show entirely because this is one of my favorite franchises ever of all time. So this entry, is it in the upper echelon? No, but I still had a good time. It felt like a Scream movie. Sarcastic characters, a whodunit scenario. All the recipe for a Scream movie, except it didn't take place in Woodsboro. It took place in New York, so that was kind of fun. The change of scenery was kind of cool, but this did but it homaged a lot from Scream 2, so it followed its own rules. I kind of dug that because kind of coming full circle. You know what? This movie did give me two things I've wanted in a Scream movie for a while. And I won't reveal that here because I think this is still the spoiler-free section. So I'm sure I'll bring it up eventually whenever I'm on the show proper. Yeah, the runtime was fine. Plot was cool. I was really interested in how it opened. And that point of view was kind of cool. So I do hope we get a Scream movie like that eventually down the line. Because am I in for more Scream movies? Abso-fucking-lutely. I do have a gripe because once it's revealed, it's a little too mustache villain twirling for me. But only because I know the people or persons portraying whoever might be in the Ghostface mask. I know they're capable of doing more. So that's the only problem I really had. But it's vicious. It's gory. The stabbings are actually They are outstanding this time around. So I got no complaints there. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not like a fucking home run for me or anything, but it's really, really fun. I do want to see it again in theater, time permitting. So that's a positive. But I always like it's Ghostface. That's my white face killer. I love those fucking things. What else? The main chick, Melissa, what have you, she's finally growing on me because I really I like the characters enough to watch them die. This time I actually rooted for her to survive. Not everybody I root for all the time to survive. There's some people there that need to go, and they've overstayed their welcome, even though they've only been here for a short amount of time. And that can apply to some other legacy characters, if you will. But yeah, I dug it. I want more stabbings, more stabbings. The set piece for the final act, I want to go there. I want everything in that room. That place was cool, and it was very, very cool to see Hayden Panettiere back, and hope we get more if she survives at all. So, yeah, I'm gonna rate it right now. I don't know, Todd, if you want to split this later, but
No, we're good.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 with possible room to grow because those killings were very aggressive and stabby and bloody, and I like that a lot. I don't think they took advantage of all the Halloween stuff they could have since it was around Halloween time, so that was a little bummer. But Yeah, I got no real complaints. I had a great time, and I'll be definitely watching this again. So, thank you, everybody. Chris, I believe you're a guest on today's show. Thank you, and see you soon. Dan, whatever. Todd, Mr. Kruger, I'll see you on Disneyland. 3.5 out of 5 if I forgot.
Traded it. How did he? What the hell?
All right, so well,
He needs to stop smoking that stuff.
Right.
We'll have more bitching and spoilers, so stay around if you've seen the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, since Chris, did you see it in 3D also?
The second time I saw it in 4DX, so it was in 3D. Yeah.
Okay, so
I didn't think that added anything.
It didn't. The 3D fucking sucked.
Yeah.
really, I thought there was nice. See, here's the thing: it was good modern CD. The depth and everything was there, but it wasn't like it should have been more classic 80s style, which would be taking advantage of it and doing pop out. It did what a Pixar would do. You get the depth, but you don't really have. They didn't take advantage of it, so it's like an obvious conversion where like there's nothing like done for it. So I think the conversion was good. I just don't think that because it wasn't shot like that, it wasn't taken advantage of. But
yeah, I didn't notice anything that was like, oh wow, I'm glad I saw this in 3D.
Yeah, I kind of regretted not just doing like 4D or the what the fuck do they do at Cinemark XD?
does that one do the seats move on that one too, or is that one just large premium format?
Yeah, it's the big screen and like more fucking colors or some bullshit like that.
Yeah,
they didn't have D-Box for this though. I would have did D-Box for this, but my theater didn't have it, unfortunately.
So how was the 4DX? I mean, minus the 3D portion.
So the theater we were in, I went with a few friends. We were all pretty convinced that the theater didn't understand what 4DX meant, because the volume was really low. It's supposed to be a lot louder than a standard, theatrical experience, and there was supposed to be scents pumped out, and several times the spray thing happened. When she gets the cherry Coke thrown on her, and the guy says, I like your perfume, like something like, cherry Coke. Then one of the sprays things come in, and it was supposed to be a cherry scent, and nobody could smell it. But we figured like it's supposed to be cherry, because what else would they be spraying out the mention of cherry Coke? But what was kind of fun was when somebody got stabbed, the seats jerked, and like the little the things poked you in the back or poked you, somewhere. So that was kind of fun.
The ladder scene, how did that play?
You're jumping around a lot. Your seat was moving around a lot. Some of it was distracting, though. I will say, like, some of it was like there were points where I was like, okay, all right, I get it.
Imagine seeing 50 Shades
they don't
with that gimmick.
Oh my god.
They had a showing of Leatherface, not the good Leatherface. Of that one in 40X.
No.
But I had already watched it, so I couldn't make myself pay $20 to go watch
no.
Fuck that movie.
I mean, I felt like I should have got jerked off something for watching the movie. But
yeah, movie.
When the first movie I saw, and it must have been D-Box, it was in Florida. It was Active Valor, and the seats had controls where you could control the intensity of what was going on.
Yeah, that's how they are now.
Yeah, well, not this theater. Everybody was on one fucking platform, and we're all just getting thrown all over the place. And the theater was sold out, so you're sharing an armrest with somebody. And you're just like, "Hey, how are you? Sorry," like you're just trying, But it was, it was fun. I honestly wouldn't do it again for any movie. Realistically, I mean, I know that like the guys I was with were like, "Oh, the Mario movie is going to be in 4DX. We should totally see it." Like I said, listen. This was fun, but it was $25 and the audio sucked. I was shoulder to shoulder with some fucking complete random stranger. I hate that. I'd rather just like
unconscious at one point.
I'd rather just go see it normal or regular or whatever, or go to like a Dolby Atmos theater or something. So
I actually, and I'm not a big Scream fan. In fact, as far as Scream memorabilia, I don't think I have much of anything, but I will say this was really cool, and I got it at AMC. I don't know if any of you picked
I did get one of those, yeah.
Yeah, it's got the sort of hologram.
That's dope.
You can still get them. Like I went back actually to pick a few up for people, and they're like, "Well, we have the cup, but we don't have the topper anymore." So,
Should have picked
but-
one up for me, you bastard.
I was going to Kruger. I was going back. I had like 5 different people, and I was like, "All right, I'm going to go ahead and get one for Kruger and Todd."
Well, Hobie got one for Pugs.
Well, I didn't get any extra because I should have thought of it the first time. But
You should just give that one to Pugs. You don't even like the series, Dan. Just give it to Pugs.
he's
I'm not gonna pressure him like that.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Dan gangstered his way into it, so I'm not even.
He wasn't even happy. He said whatever when it came to me. He was nice to you guys. So yeah. I'm gonna put this.
Well,
right
maybe
in
if you give him the
back.
cup, he won't be whatever to you next time.
Yeah,
Can I make him give him the finger here? Let's see. Now the hand's not posable, but no.
fucking dude, you know why? Because you've been talking shit about this movie for like the last 4 months.
I gave it. I'm giving it a decent-ish review.
Well,
which
what
might
is
say
your
something.
rating?
My rating is. I'll give it a 3 because I do think it was much
higher
more
than I thought.
suspenseful than most Scream movies. I didn't have a miserable time watching it. There are certain aspects of it that I thought sucked, but I think if I'm giving it above average, that might say something. I understand people.
So you
like
could
it.
watch this entry again.
Well, I won't be anytime soon. I'm not going
I know,
back
but
to
I'm
the
saying
theater,
you could.
but
Like, yeah.
if I had somebody over and said, "Yeah, can we watch Scream 6?" It wouldn't be like that reaction if they said, "Can we watch Halloween Ends?" You know, no.
Hell yeah.
I don't shit on movies just to shit on them. So you get a
just
halfway decent review, but I will be bitching in the spoiler section.
Right.
So,
Chris, what is your number?
3.5.
Rate- 3.5. Kruger?
3 out of 5 for me too.
I'm with Chris, 3.5. Well, and Pug. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, give him some warnings, Dan, before we hit some spoilers, because we will be talking Scream 6 spoilers, and The Last of Us will be an open spoiler discussion. So
yes, so we're going to start with Scream 6 spoilers, and then we'll get into Last of Us. If you haven't watched them yet, then you have been warned. So don't yell at us in the comments, or you can if you want, but we don't care. So
I care. So
yes.
just leave now. If you,
Yes.
No, I don't give a shit. Okay, here we go. Spoilers.
All right, here we go, guys. Open spoiler talk now. So there were the leaks anyways, which I was really curious if it would hurt the film, and obviously they did. It did not. This is doing spectacular, which I always say, even if I don't love a movie, it's good to see horror movies kicking ass lately as Marvel kind of starts to wane more and more. It's like horror. I want it to take over. Horror #1 at the box office. So there were issues with the reveal. It's like, okay, we're kind of doing 2 again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Lazy.
I actually looked over to the fucking person that I was with, and I just looked at her. I was like, "This is fucking 2 all over again. Why? What the fuck was the point?" I hated the fact that it was the cop, and then it kind of is just like, well, we had 3 ghost faces, now, and
They had to
I
even
don't-
the number, and that's
Yeah.
incorrect there, though, Kruger.
What?
It has 5 ghost faces.
Yeah, the first two in the beginning. That's right.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Are you
But the
counting?
numbers
Are you
the
counting
numbers
Courtney Cox?
No,
We're not counting Courtney Cox.
6.
Well, then 7 if we
And
count
then-
fucking Sam. So shut the fuck up, Dan.
And I think I think what really did it in for me with the ending was like after we find out everybody survives after that stupid reveal, and that really bothered me. I was like, you guys didn't have the balls to kill anybody. Come on, man. Like, I mean, you could say that about all the fucking sequels. I get that, but just for me personally, I would have killed off Mindy, and I mean, Courtney Cox's character needs to fucking die already.
What's left for her?
Yeah, there's
Like,
nothing.
I mean, now it's just like I really don't need her in these movies.
Well, she was useless in this. What, she just showed up and was like, "Oh, well, I wrote a book about fucking all the victims again." You know, there was
She
no
said
point.
yes, so they put her in there.
No, I get it, but like they should have put her in there to get fucking killed. Like, it bothers the hell out of me.
Did you laugh? Like, this wasn't supposed to be funny, but when like the boyfriend was just dead there, and she just like totally no sells.
Yeah, she knows the shit out
like
of it.
fuck him, I guess. Like,
It's not Dewey.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of.
She wasn't that attached. They hadn't even watched the movie together yet.
Yeah, and also the fact, I mean, I guess now it's canon. If you put the ghost face mask on, you're basically Brock Lesnar and you can take anything. But yeah, everybody's immortal. There's like several moments where I'm like, okay, I've never been stabbed, but god damn it, like you're not coming back from that.
What's Mindy's brother's name?
Chad.
Yeah, when he came, like when you found out that he didn't fucking die from getting stabbed by the two ghost faces, I thought that was a little ridiculous.
Well, he got stabbed 5 times, and 4 of those stabs were in the shoulder.
It looked fucking. I just wanted him to die, though.
It looked brutal, but he was stabbed in the shoulder. And when I was rewatching Scream 2, Dewey gets stabbed 4 times in the back and definitely punctures a lung, because he coughs up blood, and he managed to live through Scream 2. So
Woodsboro strong.
I can forgive Chad getting stabbed in the shoulders and maybe once in the chest area and not being dead on sight.
I think the fact that like we get both of them just made it. You had to off one of them. Gail should have. It would have. Gail actually had a way to go out in a grand way.
Yeah.
Well, I think Gail would have been too obvious, honestly. Killing her off in this one, I think they're going to give her a grand death in 7. I think that's when she's going to bite it, because I think honestly, I agree, she was useless in the film. You could have cut her out completely and the movie wouldn't have been any different. But I think that tease was, okay, we killed off Dewey in the last one. You're expecting us to kill off her in this one because she's here and she's getting stabbed. But we're going to make you wait a whole other movie. You're going to wait till part 7, and they're going to kill her in part 7.
They'll kill her in the opening, probably.
Most likely.
She's going in for a facelift again. Yeah, and it's like Ghostface.
Oh my god, it's Cotton Weary. If they're doing 3, that makes sense. Cotton Weary gets off in the opening of the 3rd one.
Yeah. Because I mean, I did love her when she was on the phone with him, though. And she's like, "Could you hold on for me for 1 second?" He's like, "Huh?" Just like, I'm like, okay. If anything, she was useful to have that moment in the movie, but she was completely useless in that sense. And I didn't mind the reveal, because they did sort of make a reference earlier on that somebody is redoing Scream or Stab 2, which takes place at college.
Yes.
So they kind of had that nod early on to let you know there's going to be a connection to the previous killers for whoever's doing this now. So when it was revealed that they were related to him, I was like, oh, okay. So they really did dive into Stab or Scream 2, rather, having the relatives. But these weren't like long lost relatives. These were just like, like Billy's mother, who just apparently gets a makeover and loses a bunch of weight and nobody recognizes her except for Sydney, who sees her at the very end. But like, even like Courtney Cox, Gail Weathers, who, investigates everything and saw pictures of her, doesn't see that it's the same fucking person. Like, how much plastic surgery did this bitch have where she's completely unrecognizable?
There's a lot of issues with the killer in this too. It's like it was a guy that went on a murder spree. You would know that that's the dad. There's no way.
It's every time you see that costume, it's obviously a larger person. It's neither of the kids. Because when I watched it the second time, I was watching the body type.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, but that's also true in part 5. The one who kills Dewey is supposed to be the girl, and the fucking Ghostface is 6 foot tall when he
throwing him around. Yeah,
but my thing with this one though was this one seemed even bigger than the average Scream and the costumed actor. Like, it got to the point where I was like, are they really going to pull a Matthew Lillard because of his size?
Yeah,
because he has that similar body type. Unless they did that shit on purpose, because he had a similar body type.
Maybe.
I really, really, really want Stu to be
I
alive
do
and
too.
like, dude, I wanted the reveal so bad, him just to come out like in a wheelchair, his face is all fucked up, and he's mentoring a ghost face to kill for him. Fuck
Well-
yeah, dude.
Well, let's be honest. This is Screamy come out maybe slightly limping, if any.
Yeah, I was gonna say he only got a TV to his face, so he shouldn't have any other issues going on. Maybe like Phantom of the Opera, fuck that face. The ghost face mask is like
He's wearing
permanently
Courtney
fused.
Cox's face.
He's got the same plastic surgeon as Dr. Loomis. It's all right.
There you go. Yeah, he'll be fine. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with the reveal at all. I didn't even the second time I wasn't like, I just was like, okay, whatever. It's because again, to me, it's in line with the whole franchise. The long lost brother, the mother, that abandoned her kid, the cousin. It all boils down to somebody is connected by blood to the person who's that came before them in some way or is in the movie in some way. It really didn't take me out and it didn't bother me. I didn't really think it was all that far-fetched or that dumb. I was just like, okay, this is on par with what we've seen before. So I really didn't mind it. Both times I didn't mind it. I know people have issues with it, but for me, I was just like,
Yeah, it's funny because both times I saw it, like I have the same feeling. It's like it didn't sway my opinion either way. I still had a good time, and yeah.
Did anybody else notice Jenna Ortega though, like falling 15 feet onto a knife and just totally no-selling it?
yeah, no, she totally just walked away from that. And I mean, and she doesn't, I mean, she's just got an arm sling on at the end and she just walks away. I do have to kind of echo what Dan said though, because this was something I noticed is that this could have taken place in any city. They didn't have the sense, even though they shot it in Montreal, to take a few days and go down to New York City and shoot Times Square,
they should have,
by the Empire State, something, and people can talk shit on Jason Takes Manhattan all they want, but they at least had the good sense to know we need to have New York in the movie and it has to be obviously New York. We can shoot in all of these back alleys and whatever in Vancouver, but we need something that's obviously New York so people know that this is New York City. And that was the problem with this one was the sub. Everyone's like, oh, but the subway. I'm like, yeah, but Chicago has a subway. Yeah. Boston has a subway. LA has a subway. This could have been any city, and it didn't.
That was no LA
New York.
subway.
Yeah, they definitely should have did a chase down like Times Square or something.
Something, like or they got onto this. They got onto the train in Times Square. Just show them in Times Square, in a large public place. Have a fucking Halloween parade and take advantage of the Halloween parade.
That would be cool.
That kind of did fall into the background. I understand why they did it because it had to make sense that there were multiple people on a train wearing a ghost face costume, which really it does add to that scene. But that's the only time Halloween as the holiday really has a part in the movie.
Yeah,
where it's just like, oh, okay, because even the party they go to earlier, it's a costume party, but it really could have been any party. It didn't need to be. It could have just been any college party. So it didn't really have. They didn't do a great job of giving it like a Halloween vibe, which I'm like, guys, you have. But why not? Why not take advantage of this?
This is a question. Like how big? Like I know on Halloween, like New York does the big parade, but I don't know if we're on Halloween. Let's say we're the weekend before. Like I don't know how. Like I know how it would look here, but how would it look different? In like that kind of big city.
No, I get it, but like I feel like they could have done something. I just feel like if you're gonna have it take place around Halloween time,
it was underutilized. It was
utilize it. Yeah, utilize it more than just to make one scene in the film.
It was to make the screen masks around and easily accessible. It was
I might be. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Kruger. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, have Ghostface fucking, kill somebody with a pumpkin or something for fuck's sake.
Another thing, and I know I'm getting nitpicky on this one, but
never
a gun like the clerk having the gun, like it's New York. You know how hard it is. Like I thought that was a little unrealistic.
What's hard to get a gun permit?
Well, it's a little harder in New York. I don't know.
Yeah, you think. You think a bodega owner is gonna give a shit about permits?
Right?
I don't know.
Getting a gun in New York City is actually relatively easy.
Recently, yes, actually, I'll say that, but no, it's not easy. I've never bought a gun in New York City, but I have bought guns, and I'm always understood like it's really hard to get a gun in New York City.
You got to know a guy.
Well, yeah, I can get it like through back channels, I guess.
I really didn't stop and go, oh my God, the convenience store guy has a gun.
See, that's the thing. It's
Like-
weird because
In any fucking movie that came before, and
That's
anytime a
a
convenience
little
store
thing,
guy
but-
pulled out a gun, I didn't go, wait a minute.
My biggest issues was the end. I was just like, man, that is so lazy. They could have come up. I get it. It's a Scream movie, and people will throw that at me as though it's like some sort of counter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not good. And that's the same issue I have with a lot of the Scream movies. That and just this nonstop, the dialogue about requels and shit. I'm like, that's not clever anymore. I think we can eliminate that.
you can eliminate. That's like legitimately part of the core Scream.
I
I
think
mean-
you can move away from it a little bit. We don't need that speech. I don't know.
It's in
For me,
every one
it's-
of the movies, Dan. Like, it's in
It's
It's
every
not going
one.
anywhere.
It's in the first one. It's in the second one. It's definitely in the third one. It's in the fourth one. It's in the fifth one. It's
No,
not going anywhere.
I don't know. I
It's
just
not.
don't like
It's not going anywhere.
All
And
right.
audiences today need shit spelled out for them. So
Which
know.
explains the ending. Now, we didn't talk about the lair. That's problematic. Cops like money, but not that.
So the only I've had a couple discussions with folks about this. Most of the stuff in that quote layer could easily be swapped out if they had the right cop and they were paying him the right amount of money, or with the dad being a cop saying, hey, we need this stuff for a crime we're investigating involving this. There's a lot of avenues that stuff could have been acquired
Yeah.
where it wouldn't have raised any red flags with anybody. And honestly, I don't know if you guys know cops or if you've ever been. I dated a cop for a lot of years. When shit goes into an evidence locker, stuff disappears all the time.
Yes.
And nobody and it basically, unless it's a current crime that's being investigated and it's going to break or make someone being guilty or not, nobody gives a shit. If the crime is solved and people have moved on and it disappears, sometimes they throw that shit away. They'll throw it, and if they'll throw a murder weapon in a fucking dumpster and that's supposed to be destroyed, like it's supposed to be crushed, but they're like, well, the case is solved, this is over, we've got to make room for new evidence. That stuff just doesn't constantly. They don't keep finding new rooms to push shit in. They just get rid of it.
Yeah. That's an interesting. I was actually getting to that, but I guess that's somewhat.
They also
logical.
auction off like stolen cars and shit. You ever been to like a car auction? Like,
Yeah,
you
can
drug
get
busts and shit, like drug
Yes.
dealers former vehicles are
One
being auctioned
time,
off.
I didn't end up getting anything, but I did play cards with the sheriff back in West Virginia, and he tuned me onto that, and I was like, oh shit. I wish I was in the market for a car at the time.
Yeah,
because you can get all sorts.
It's not that wasn't much of a stretch for me.
The one thing that makes it a stretch for me is, yes, evidence disappears. It's the quantity. That's like literally someone like, okay, let me find something from that Ghostface case, and there's nothing. Like everything is gone, and that's a high-profile case. They're not going to get rid of all the evidence. I think that's my only thing. There's so much evidence.
I mean,
from a serial killer.
There is murderabilia out there.
It's multiple killers, and honestly, aside from Billy's knife, the knife from 4, and his shirt, and maybe the mask he was wearing, like the TV that killed Stu, like a lot of that, I don't know. Like I feel like there wasn't like the phone that is in the house from part 3. Like nobody would have, you know what I mean? Like there's just nothing stood out as like. I don't know. It didn't seem like an overabundance of shit that would have been like, hey, because again, like I know someone personally who was like, yeah, shit disappears all the time. And really nobody pays any mind to it because unless you have a trail of where it went and how it went missing, and the case is closed anyways. That's the thing that makes me just not think about it is the case. All those cases are closed. They're not hot current cases. The stuff in that room, everything in it is from 4 below, which in Scream 5 happened 10 years before.
All right.
Before.
Well, then I'm going to put it out. I'll put it out here like this. How can a cop on that salary get it all?
Maybe
he's going to have to pay some.
Maybe he didn't have to pay for it. Maybe he bribed.
He's going to have to.
There's a lot of ways. And honestly, like, how did a cop who who works in New York City pay for his 2 fucking kids to go to college and rent an expensive theater out in New York City.
This is
Yeah.
true.
Like, if you want to talk about the financials, that's all. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's people try to apply way too much like logic into something. It's like, no, just go for the ride. If you can go along for the ride, then whatever.
The argument with that is, though, you have to take me on a ride that I'm not going to notice it. If I notice it, that means I'm not enjoying the ride.
But you noticed it after the fact.
No, this doesn't even bother me. I'm just bringing it up because that's an argument.
No, I know,
Like
but what I'm saying is you noticed it when the movie was over. Like,
I
hey,
know
wait a
this.
minute, well, you noticed the stuff being there.
Yeah,
That didn't
I
make
was
sense
like,
to you. But you didn't think about the money aspect of it until later. Like, well, wait a minute, that would have cost a lot of money. That
no,
means
I thought, how are they renting it too?
Did you know? Or are you piggybacking off of what I just said?
my biggest thing wasn't that. It was just like, okay, that family connection would be out there, and somehow that would have red flags would have went up a lot.
They did say that he moved to New York to become a cop when she came out to school to be a cop, when she came out to college. So he hadn't been a New York cop for that long.
Yeah.
They say that.
Well, they say that she says after her brother died, he followed her to New York.
Yes.
And the brother is obviously Richie, who was murdered by Sam. So realistically, he could have been a cop in LA and made a lot more money and had access to all of the stuff, and he could have been the one taking it all and sending it to whoever was in New York City. So there again, like, there's a lot of ways that stuff being there does make some sense.
I think the problem is with most people, why this is an issue, is a lot of dots have to be connected to make that believable. It's not just like, okay, I get it.
That's any movie,
like,
though. There's a lot of.
But the argument is, though, if it is every movie, but you only ignore the stuff that doesn't make sense. If you're so engrossed into the story, then you might notice it later. Like earlier on Dead Pit, you're like, oh, I didn't notice this or that. But as you get older, you notice more. So it's kind of the same idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, as you get older and you pick up on stuff and you mature and you live life experiences and you learn things, of course. I mean, but if you I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. When that scene happened, I didn't go, how did all this stuff get here?
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind while I was watching the movie. It was after the fact when people were asking, and I was just like, well, the dad's a cop. He had something to do with it. I mean, or they obviously had money to burn or maybe Richie was the one buying all that shit. And it just, because I think he even says like, this was my son's collection.
No, yeah, it was definitely it was all Richie's stuff. But
Richie was the one with all the money. I mean, I don't know. Like, again, like, it's not something I lost any sleep over.
Kruger, Richie was the one who was like the YouTube or TikTok kid, right?
He was the killer from
No, I understand that, but in real life, I thought I remember you saying there was something we watched recently where you're like they were a TikTok guy and they did. You like sound like a chipmunk, so I don't even know what the fuck just happened.
It's actually scarier even with that chipmunk voice.
What did he just do?
We have a new Jallo gimmick coming up. I
don't even remember what I asked.
Are you smoking that stuff?
Is it good now?
Yeah, you're good now.
All right, cool.
I forgot what I asked.
You were asking me about the fucking TikTok guy. It's in Cocaine Bear. It's the nurse.
Oh, okay. Well, no, because I wasn't sure because they had like footage of him when he was younger doing like filming whatever. So I didn't know if that came from like a TikTok or something.
I don't think so.
Okay, I was just curious. Do we have anything else on screen before we move on to The Last of Us?
I think we've covered it pretty well at this point. I mean, I'm just indifferent to the franchise now. Like I said it after 5, which I didn't hate either. It was just like, I'm okay if we don't get more or if we just end it finally.
Well, 5 was a surprise to me because they actually did what 4 didn't have the balls to do, and they killed off a legacy character and moved the story forward. And I was interested at that point. I was like, I want to see where this is going to go. I'm
Yeah.
interested in these new characters. I'm interested to see what becomes of them. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with the story now that they're moving on from the original 3. And honestly, again, with this one, Gail could have been. Gail should have been in LA, and they call her. That's her scene. They call her and they're like, "Hey, this is happening again," and she's like, "I'm all the way in LA. I can't get out to you guys to help you in time. You're just going to have to try to figure this out on your own. I'm so sorry, and I wish you all the best, but I can't help you. I'm here. Like, I can't leave. There's no way for me to get out there. Whatever. There's some reason she can't go out and rescue them or whatever, because ultimately her character being there doesn't add anything to the plot. Kirby could have found the lair without, at some point, and that could have been how they found out about it. Like, there's a lot of that just didn't really need to be there. I did love that Kirby came back, though.
Me too. She was my
happy
favorite thing about 4.
that she was back. Yeah.
I was wondering, because I thought she was
appreciate that.
pointless up to a certain point. It's like she's not offering anything. I mean, that was when I like Kirby, but I mean, she's another one like Gail. She didn't offer anything. Really, she could have been any FBI agent. I mean, you really don't even know it's the same Kirby until the part that made Dan like want to poke his ears out when they were talking about horror films. And that's the only time you really see the old Kirby.
Yeah, but I mean, she's not going to come out swinging with horror movie references.
I understand that.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, plus it's
she's not gonna be like, "Hey, detective, what's your favorite scary movie?"
I understand that, but that's my point. So she was not even really a needed character. I'm glad they brought her back, but
I'm glad. Yeah, and I'm glad that they put her as the character rather than just some random motherfucker I couldn't give a shit about.
I'm in that sense. I agree with Kruger. I'm glad it was a legacy character that was, because again, like you have it with Gail being useless. It was nice to see. Okay, well, at least they know what to do with the characters from the first 4 movies when they do show up, except apparently for Gail. She's the only one they don't know what to do with. But
I wonder if when Kirby said yes, that changed her role.
Maybe it could have. I mean, Gail could have been the Kirby role.
Mm-hmm.
That would have made more sense.
I mean, I think Nev Campbell will be back in 7 no matter what. I wish he wasn't. I really wish we would just go ahead with this.
I just wish they would have killed her in fucking 5.
I'm fine with her having her happy ending and just not being around.
Yeah,
I'm okay if she never comes back. I didn't miss her, and a lot of other people, they all sort of felt the same way. How the reason she's not a part of it, I don't agree with at all.
I agree. Yeah,
her character was important enough that if she wanted the money she was asking for, they absolutely should have paid her, regardless if she was on screen for 2 minutes or she was on screen for the entire film.
The reason they didn't, though, the deals were already drawn. It's like producers would, they already had their piece of it, and it
doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you're making Scream 6, part of that negotiation is one of the main characters returning. You should, before those contracts are signed, the cash, if it's that important to the film, which for a lot of people she should have been signed on. The producers already had agreed to do it, but like her salary could have been negotiated. They just didn't want to pay her. At the end of the day, that's ultimately what it was. They didn't want to pay her.
Look at the box office results. I mean, you could argue.
Yeah, but look at the box office results of 5. 5 was also a big hit. So
but it was a big hit without her.
No, she was in 5.
No, I'm saying this one was a big hit without her.
It was a big hit without her, which is why I'm saying I don't think they're going to get her back for 7, because their mindset's going to be, well, we didn't have to pay you. The movie still did fine. So, bye, Sydney.
Give it a decade, then it's stunt casting. You're bringing, then people will be happy to see her. I might even be happy to see her in a decade instead of like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me like a break of 4 Scream movies, then come back and I'm like, oh shit, Sydney's.
Then they're gonna get really stupid, and it's just gonna be like Kills and Ends.
I hope so. Just so Dan goes twice as crazy.
It's gonna get so dumb. Nev Campbell.
I want a Corey cameo. I don't even know the way you're gonna make it work, but
stop it.
All right, let's talk about this other thing we have to talk about.
Last of Us. So, I mean, before we talk about the finale, just in general, Chris, because we've been talking about it as we've gone along, and I know you're also, like Kruger, a fan of the video games. What do you think? Because I think it's pretty excellent so far.
Well, as far as video game adaptations go, this one is one of the best, if not the best.
Hands down.
Honestly, they they took liberties with the story, with plot elements of the story, but the story still had the same beats and was where it needed to be when it needed to be there, which is fantastic. And earlier today, I won't name names, but there was a friend on Facebook who was posting how the show, he watched the first 2 episodes and gave up on episode 3 because the episode 3 had characters that had nothing to do with the story, and there was hardly any infected and hardly any running around. And my reply to him was simply, once again, you've proven that you prefer mindless action and no story over character development and plot.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys, you don't understand that this isn't about them. It's about the people and how the people adapt to this new world that they're kind of thrown into, and how humanity is struggling to keep going with this new world, and how, that's what Last of Us is. It's not about ripping people apart in gory set pieces and masses of infected tearing people apart. It's in there, but it's not what it's about. And
yeah, it's always been about the story.
Yeah, and it's such a rich story. The first game, was one of the best. I bought a PlayStation 5, I think 4, just because of that game, or 3, whenever. I think it was actually PlayStation 3.
It came out on 3.
Yeah, just to get that game. I wanted to. I played it at my friend's house for 20 minutes, and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to play this." Yeah. So I went online, bought a PlayStation 3, and bought a Last of Us on Amazon. Had it the next day, and spent the next week locked in my bedroom. It was, you get so engrossed in it, and the show did everything perfectly.
Yeah, it's funny because, really, when you add it up as far as screen time goes, I don't know if we're calling them zombies, creatures, whatever. That's a very insignificant amount of screen time, and I'm fine with it. I think the character stuff is just so well written, and to a point where, I'll be honest, even me, and I love post-apocalyptic stories, zombie stories. People are burnt out on it. We've had a lot of Walking Dead at this point, and I was like, man, I don't know about jumping into something else, but this avoids a lot of tropes that you'd expect. They're not afraid at all to kill people off. It's like, oh, here's the new villain, or here's these 2 new lovable characters that are going to be with us for a long time. And it's like, nope, dead. And they'll break your heart all in one episode. I think Sam and the brother, I'm sorry, I forget the other character name. That was heartbreaking. And I never would have guessed that they were going to just die that fast.
And it's heartbreaking in the game too.
Mm-hmm.
But also in the game they made some interesting choices narratively in the game. The younger brother, I believe his name is Sam, isn't deaf. He speaks he talks. He actually becomes really friendly with Ellie. It's the first kid he's seen and the first kid she's seen. So that's their connection. They're around the same age range and they connect. And I think that, that connection isn't lost even with Sam being deaf in this. Mm-hmm. Sam and Henry. Henry is the older brother.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was again, they made an interesting choice narratively, but the story beats still remain the same. You still have that, Henry still has to shoot his brother to stop him from attacking Ellie, and turns the gun on himself. It just happens a little differently, and what gets them there is a little different too. So, I mean, really, it's just so fucking well made. And shout out to the fucking creators for throwing 2 AHA references into a show like this.
The mall, I was gonna say. I figured you popped
the tape at the mall, and the obviously they played the song in there, and then also when in the last episode when Ellie is born, her mother is singing "The Sun Always Shines on TV" to her, which I'm like, oh my god, you guys are awesome.
Did you notice that Ellie's mother's the voice actress? that,
Yes.
plays
Actually,
Ellie in
when
the
she
game.
was running and she was making the grunting noises, I was like, hey, that's Ellie.
Yeah.
Like right away, I was like, I recognized that voice, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, that's the. And did you know the guy who does Joel's voice was one of David's men?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I looked at that guy, I'm like, he looks really familiar. Where have I seen him from? So I IMDb'd him while I'm watching the episode. I'm like, oh, it's the guy who does the voice for Joel. That's awesome.
It's really cool that they like had them do something for the show.
I know. And I again, that episode specifically, another narrative change. But when Ellie kills David in the game, Joel like kind of like after she's whacked him a bunch of times, he comes into the restaurant and he grabs her and like struggles with her, and like she realizes it's him and she collapses and cries. The slight difference in the show is that she leaves the restaurant on her own, and Joel finds her and she collapses into him outside, but she got out on her own. So I'm like, that's such a powerful moment where she walks away. Someone doesn't stop her. She does it on her own. She manages to get out, and Joel finds her, and that's when she realizes what she's just done, and it hits her, and it's like he's literally got to carry her off. It really solidifies their relationship, because that's one of the things I was worried about is you're playing the game. The game's like an 8-9 hour ordeal if you go through the entire thing, which is close to what the show runs, but you're in control of everything.
Yeah.
And you're also part of it. So you develop a connection to both of these characters as they start to connect with each other. And when you adapt it into a TV show, my biggest concern was, are we going to get that connection with these two? Are we going to feel the same way? Are we going to see that they are starting to feel the same way? And that scene where Ellie reads the pun when they're sleeping in the apartment in like episode 4, and Joel's trying not to laugh, I was like, yep, there it is. You can see that it's starting to happen. The shell's starting to, the walls are coming down. The heart is thawing. He's starting to, really care about her, and she's really starting to care about him. Okay, they got this. I'm not worried anymore.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, it does happen earlier, but just that scene where she's coming out of the burning building after nearly being assaulted, that was like, okay, that's his new daughter. It was just baby girl, and you could tell like he's not.
Well, she nursed his ass back to health. She prevented him from dying from an infection, and it's just she went into this as a, I don't want to say naive, but sort of a young girl who hadn't really had to experience this world yet, to going full throttle and having to experience a lot in a short period of time. Something that the people that are in it have spent the last 20 years experiencing. She experienced it on the course of like 6 months, and it's just like, holy shit, this sucks. But yeah, man, it was fucking great. I love this
Riley show. Her friend from the mall, isn't she like bigger in the video games, or is that like a separate?
It's a DLC.
It's a DLC that they put out, which again plays out almost exactly the same beat for beat. The only difference between what happens in the DLC, what happens in the show, is there's a lot more infected chasing them to the mall when they find them.
Yeah,
there's like a good amount where they can't fight them off and they have to escape, and they end up on the roof of the mall or something like that. But
I like that we don't get that often, and when we do, it's impactful. Like the scene with Melanie Linsky's character where the car starts sinking down into the ground.
The bloaters reveal. Yeah, that was amazing.
And then to find out that a majority of that shit was practical.
Practical, yeah.
There were all those extras were there. That bloater was there. The guy was in a costume, and it's like, holy shit! The fucking contortionist girl that crawls through the van. Yeah. She was a real contortionist. That little girl that they hired to play that, and I was like, go on, that like it really speaks to like, okay, we want to deliver a quality experience, and there was probably a real long discussion of, well, if they want CG, they can play the game. The game looks realistic. If you buy the PS5 version, there are more than a handful of times where you're playing that going like, this looks like people running around. Yeah. So they really could have made it really easy on themselves by just implementing CG, but they did a lot of practical effects. And even that city, that block of houses, that was built that was a soundstage, and it was built inside so they could control the weather because they
Mhm.
were shooting in it for so long. So they built it in this big warehouse, and it's like you could see the behind the scenes pictures, and it's like that's an entire fucking city neighborhood block they built inside this warehouse just so they could be like, so we can shoot whenever we can and not have to rain or whatever. This is just we can shoot whenever. Holy shit. You know, it's crazy the amount of detail they went into just to shoot on a you know, a street of a suburban neighborhood that they really could have just found anywhere and distressed the hell out of, you know, and then been like, all right, here you go, we'll clean up when we leave. But it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they've done such a fantastic job. I think that it's rare. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there with some complaints, but I don't hear a lot of shitting on this one. Which
People
nowadays,
who
nowadays though, with television shows, it's very hard to satisfy everyone, and this just seems to be universally popular.
I have to disagree with you there, Dan. I think television gets a lot more universal love than movies do nowadays.
I don't know, like
Within the fans of their genres, if you look at a DC property, if you look at a Star Wars property,
I see tons of shitting on Star Wars from fans. Modern Star Wars, tons.
Yeah.
Tons and tons. I mean, I know they have their fans still, but there's a lot of shitting. I'm not hearing. What would you complain about this show?
I'm just saying. I think you have a lot better chance of getting the love in TV than your film.
I think the main complaint I've heard about the show, when I do hear people complaining, is the idiotic. There's not enough infected. There's not enough. There's not enough gore. There's not enough violence. It's too storied. There's too many characters. There's too much talking, and I'm like, I just don't know what to respond to. It's like it's character. Like you're so disillusioned that character development and story development is lost to you. It's alien to you.
Just tell them to shut up and watch Walking Dead, then, if that's all.
That's what I'm saying. Or Z Nation, even like you got plenty of shows that took the route of fuck character development, fuck plot development. Let's just throw zombies in here and lots of gory bits and lots of, you know, fun set pieces, and we'll just kind of move the story forward with those. This isn't like that. When somebody tells me that they gave up on episode 3, which is arguably the best episode in this series for creating one of the best stories I've seen between two characters ever in my life, it's like, huh? Clearly you had no idea what you were signing up for. So that's fine. Leave it for the rest of us who understood that this was a story-driven, character-driven piece. It wasn't about the infected and what they were doing. It was just about the characters. And I'm sorry you missed that memo when you sat down to watch it, but that's on
Tell them to go watch Scream. God damn it.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know, but
I'm just kidding. But no, I was kind of, because of course I don't know anything about the games. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to jump into another series, because TV series are hard when we review all these movies. And I'm not sorry. The only thing that scares the shit out of me, though, is HBO Max, because there's just all those issues.
This is the new regime, though. The old regime stuff's the stuff that needs to be worried about. The stuff, because that's what happens. The old regime stuff always gets tossed out like garbage, and then the new regime stuff continues on. So that's the only thing this has going.
I think this is becoming somewhat of a phenomenon, though. So
the fact that it is.
So hopefully, I just don't want to get raced by wolves again, because God, I love that, and then it was just gone.
Yeah, that hurt.
What was really cool about this show was that people who haven't played the game are watching the show, and now they're interested in the game. And people who played the game love the show, and they're going back and playing the game again. And all I'm going to say about Last of Us Part 2, they've already announced that story is going to be split into 2 seasons. And if you fuckers thought that season 1 had some shit, if they come close to adapting Last of Us Part 2 the same way they did the first game, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
I played that game once. I loved it, but I will probably never play it again.
It's emotional. It turns you into emotional.
You are literally ran through the fucking ringer emotionally, and it drains you to the point where by the time it's over, you're exhausted. You're just like, I need a week of just just like of lots of like just. I think I watched like a week of Disney movies or something. I needed to just get my mind out of that headspace because it is dark and it is unforgiving and it is cold.
Yeah.
Last of Us Part 2 is a fucking emotional gut punch.
And there's only two, right?
Yeah.
There's only 2 games. They're talking about developing a 3rd game. I'm not sure how I feel about. I mean, I'll play it. I get really concerned when game companies, very specifically game companies, want to develop a sequel just because it's a property that's done well for them versus like there's more to the story that we can tell. I just don't know where they're going to go with the story by the time Part 2 is over because a lot of shit goes down in Last of Us Part 2 where like there's not a lot left to go to.
They could always do a prequel, like with Joel.
They could do a prequel with Joel, but I don't know if they would. I just don't know.
I think prequels are usually a bad idea because we know where he's going to end up, and I hope they don't force it. Like if
well, we're talking about the game, the games, the games, not the show. No, the game, because I mean the show would be kind of pointless, but the games, there's a considerable gap between the time that things go south and the time it picks up in Boston. There is like you could potentially tell like what happens after Sarah dies and how he ends up in Boston, and that could be an interesting story to tell, and the kind of the relation, solidify those sort of, because like Tess was always sort of felt like a means to an end. Like in the game, the romantic interest isn't really there. The show kind of makes it seem a little more like there was one, but I never felt like they had a connection like romantically. To me, their relationship always felt like you're here, I'm here.
Yeah.
We might as well just be together because we're here. Because even when like in both versions, even when she's been bitten and she kind of sacrifices herself, his reaction isn't that of a guy losing his lover. It's just, oh, fuck.
I think his emotions are still like very closed off at that.
Well, somebody
point.
else he kind of cares about is going away, but he never allows himself. That's why Ellie is so important, because she is the first person he's allowed himself to love in some capacity, and that's why her life is more important to him than the lives of many, because to him she's the world.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I know obviously there's going to be issues with him lying to her about Fedra's intent. Although I don't know I don't think he had to lie to her. I mean, I don't know that she's just going to be like, okay, well, let's just let them cut me open. I don't know.
Well, so one of the weird things they did in this finale, which I thought was an odd choice, was in the game, her going under the knife and getting the cordyceps removed was a definite answer to a cure.
Yeah.
This was, if we do this, we're going to be able to create a vaccine and we're going to save the world. In the show, it was, this could possibly develop a cure. And that wording, I was like, oh, so you don't even know. So that almost kind of makes this worse, that you're willing to risk her life if you don't know.
I think it makes it less worse, though. I think knowing and not doing it would be worse.
Well, no, knowing it's going to create a vaccine, I think, is not worse, because that's something that I feel like is a little better, because at least this is going to work.
I think we're going from different perspectives. I was going from his perspective, taking her.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the Fireflies. In the game, they know this is going to create a vaccine. In the show, they're not sure.
Well, I think you didn't want to hate Joel, so you kind of got to soften it. It's a different medium. So if Joel did that exactly that he did in the game in this, that will make him unlikable, because people don't want to think like he's like, this is the cure, and you could have ended what's going on. It wouldn't work now. It wouldn't, especially now.
So, but see, in the game, because this was always a 50-50 camp, there were some people who played the game who agree with what Joel did, and there are people who were like, no, Ellie would have wanted this. I think you still have those split camps. Even people who are like, wait a minute, that was a very selfish thing for him to do. he made that choice for her. He didn't even, no one even, but then again, they were making that choice for her. So it's like she wasn't making a decision one way or the other. But in the show versus the game, he still kind of comes off as not a great person. He's not a good person. That's the thing, is Joel has killed a lot of people for less of a reason than what he did for Ellie. And he's very open about that.
Yeah.
In the show and in the game, he's not a good person, but he's our hero in this show and in the game. He's who we identify with and who we relate to, because he's not a monster. He did what he needed to do to survive, or what he felt like he needed to do. So I mean, that I think it was just curious that in the show they opted to go with the maybe versus the definitely, because regardless of how they worded it, people still felt like he made the wrong choice, or people still feel like he made the right choice, depending on where you're coming from on it.
Yeah, I think it's only fair. I mean, she saved his life, so
yeah. And I mean, it's the first person that he's allowed himself to love.
Yeah.
And since his daughter died, and that's 20 years of nothing coming in, and now something's finally there, and he doesn't want to lose again, because he almost didn't survive the last time he lost somebody he loved. So, it's a decision that I know a lot of people. I'm not sure what I would do if I was in his shoes, but because like the other aspect of it is what's left of humanity that's worth saving. There's an entire generation of people that grew up in this world that don't know what it was like before this all happened. So this is their life now. The infected are eventually going to die off because they are, that's what's going to happen to them. And people are seeming to survive in the pockets that they're in. The biggest issue is other people. So even if there's a cure,
like, I mean, would they? Because I mean, it's
like they are dying off, because there's one that's dead in the beginning that's attached itself to the wall.
Yeah, that is true.
Eventually they will just die off, because they aren't zombies. They're not undead. They're still living people in there. So they'll either eventually the fungus will grow. The body will die and the fungus will grow whenever it's on. In which case, I think then you could just burn it or whatever. But that's getting into logistics or whatever. But I think that was the other point of contention too, was like, what's left of humanity that's worth saving? Because really, humans are the biggest issue by the time the story's being told. They're the biggest problem.
I think they're the problem now too.
But now they're in this game or in this world, they're free to do whatever they want. And is a cure going to change that? Is a cure going to bring us back to a quote civilized world with a modern government and whatnot like that? I think that was that's another mindset, is, well, what was he going to be saving? Probably not much, and not much was going to change at the end of the day anyway. So what's really, you're just now less worried about being bitten.
Right.
Yeah, less worried about maybe going off on your own to some remote place. I guess, but you're right. It wouldn't really change much, because it is all about the human villains. And,
Kruger, before we get out of here, was there anything in Last of Us you didn't get to get out?
Well, you didn't get anything out at all, Todd. I apologize.
You didn't leave me anything, so that's what I'm asking.
No, I think I said. I mean, I love the show, and I thought the finale and everything was good. It went, very similar to the way it does in the game. And shout out to them doing the giraffe scene, because I love that scene.
Oh,
in the game.
yeah, the
and
giraffe.
It was cool that they added that in there.
I think practical giraffe too. I like that. Like, they could have just CG'd it. I was like, that's awesome. You got a real animal.
Yeah,
what
dude.
A novelty.
The fact that they are going like the practical route with all the things that they do in the show is really, really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see more of it, because in season 2, there is another type of infected that is in the video game that I'm really excited to see be brought to life.
I am not looking forward to season 2.
Oh, it's gonna be be heartbreaking.
I know what's coming, and I'm just like people are like, oh my god, I can't wait to see what's coming. I'm like, you guys, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming.
Yeah, you don't want to see what's coming. But on that note, yeah, fucking. When do you think season 2 will be coming out? Probably a couple years, right?
At least a year.
I think they're going to start filming it soon. Because it's already they shot season 1 in 2020, so it's already been 3 years since they shot season 1. And I think in Last of Us Part 2, it's been a few years since the first one, so they're probably going to start shooting soon. I mean, they kind of have to at some, move on at some point. So, there was a discussion that the actress who plays Ellie, Bella Ramsey, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
There was like, oh, they're going to recast her, and the creators of the show are like, we're not recasting her. Not unless she tells us she doesn't want to work with us anymore. But no, she's Ellie. We're not recasting anybody.
Yeah.
It works fine. She aged exactly like the character would have, so
yeah,
I don't see any issues with that.
Yeah.
So Chris and Todd, you can take the spoilers off there
I
now.
was going to.
You have a podcast.
I do. A Rondo nominated podcast.
Thank you. I was going to do it since Dan can't do that.
Nice.
Dan can't do that?
Well, no, Dan should have been the one to introduce you.
I was unaware that you were nominated for a Rondo, so
well, if you paid attention to my social media, you would have seen that I posted about it about 4 fucking times, but that's all right.
Unless you posted it on Twitter,
God
Dan
damn.
didn't see it.
So I'm calling somebody up for that. No, yeah, we were nominated for a Rondo for this year, which is crazy. We're the Spooky Picture Show. We started this little journey about a little over a year ago now, and we recently acquired a new host. We started with there was 4 of us: Peter Brackey, Mike Felsher, Kevin Ellis, and myself. And Peter Brackey left us in December of last year and was replaced with Melanie Mullen, who is our new host, who's been really great and a lot of fun to be hanging out with and talk movies with. And you can find us pretty much anywhere except for YouTube, ironically. But we don't do visual podcasts, we're just audio. So, but we're on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Audible, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. I mean, I pretty much anywhere I could put the show, I put it, just so people could have access to it pretty easily. And yeah, we have a lot of fun things coming up in the next couple of months. We've got a new series that we're going to be doing where we're interviewing other members of the community and talking to them about their experiences as horror fans and kind of, what it's been like for them to be a horror fan, and conventions and, favorite movies, not so favorite movies. It was just a way for us, we thought, to kind of bring some unique perspectives to the show that, and also to talk to some of the people that listen to us. And we're here. Our goal was in developing that show was to, we wanted our show to feel like the kind of conversations you had at a video store back in the day with the video store clerk.
Yeah.
And, those people were our gods. They were our gateways to the movies we grew up with. And, we wanted that for our show. So we're like, well, it's great that we're here, but we're the people who work at the video store. And now we need to get our customers involved and have some of these conversations. So that's kind of how we looked at it. And that's what we're starting that up. Our first episode of that is actually going to be premiering on March 16th. So
a couple days.
Yeah, a couple days. And then on those episodes we'll do that'll be each month will be a two episode parter. So we'll do the interview episode, then our main episode will be the following week. And the one coming up that we did, which will be the following week, March 23rd, is movies that haven't gotten a remake that we think should be remade. Which we know is remakes are a touchy subject, but there were we were talking about a couple of movies that we really liked, but we were rough around the edges. I was like, yeah, that could be stand a remake, and the light bulb went off, and I went, okay, that's going to be our next topic. So
sweet. You should be listening, guys, if you haven't already. And also patreon.com/fleshwoundfeatures. It all starts at just $1, and we have exclusive, original, uncensored content, getting ready to shoot the Secret Santa stuff. which you can watch that first show to see what that's all about on our Patreon. And what else we got going on? We got some more smut coming up on Flesh Wound After Dark. We've got some wrestling content coming up and all sorts of different things. So, be sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And Todd, did I miss any pimping? Do we have anything else to pimp?
You'll be able to pick up Dan in April in California. We're going to take him to the club. So you will see Dan's at Groovin'.
We are going to the club. We're also going to be at XPW California 2.
Chris, you should take a flight down while we take Dan to the club.
Nope. I've been to the club with you. I know how much of an exciting experience it is.
That one's closed, unfortunately.
This is a different kind of club, too. So.
No. See, Dan, you're too focused on the strip club. I'm focused on the real club. We got to get you something.
So I got to bring like nice clothes, Todd. Is that what?
Buy nice clothes, a shirt that has buttons.
Yeah, goddamn. I'm not.
Dan, I don't give a shit. No, I want you to wear your.
I'm coming as I am.
Yeah,
but we will also get to see Evil Dead Rise together, so you'll get some live in-person stuff because this is the first time since before the pandemic that Todd, myself, Kruger, Pugs, and I guess Ozzy. Ozzy will be there too. At some point.
Ozzy's not going to be anywhere you are.
Well, we're going to be at the Sizzler, Todd.
Yeah,
I'm not going to the fucking Sizzler.
I'm not telling Ozzy Dan's coming down, so we're just gonna make it like a meet. Yeah, let's all meet at Sizzler.
And then fucking Dan's gonna show up. Oh my god, he's gonna lose his shit.
Can you imagine if we did that to you, Chris? It'd be the same thing.
I was just thinking they're gonna do this to me, and it's not gonna end well.
Just all show up and break into Chris's house. And
I'll just quietly excuse myself, and all of a sudden, someone's like, "Do you guys smell smoke?" And then you realize you're trapped in a burning building.
But yes, so that should be a good time. Lots of good stuff happening. God, we're getting close now, Todd. I got to start planning this out better.
I got to go. I got a flight in the morning.
Yes. So on that note, guys, good night. We will see you back here soon.
Good evening.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Got anything clever at the end, Chris?
Fuck Dan.
All right,
that works.
That works.